Chapter 753. When Shen Miao returned to the Shen mansion, Shen Xian and wife were waiting for her in the residence. The sky was already dark, but Shen Miao had not returned. Thus everyone thought that something had happened. Seeing that she returned safe and sound, they were relieved. Shen Miao had something in her heart and said that she was somewhat tired and wanted to rest early. Everyone did not suspect anything. When Shen Miao returned to the bedroom, she let Jingzhe and Guyu leave and sat down in front of the table. Her heart was somewhat uneasy. Xie Jingxing appearing in the princess residence today and exposing his identity in front of Princess Rong Xian was a somewhat rash decision. Moreover, Xie Jingxing was not a rash person. Other than helping Shen Miao out of the predicament, there was no other reason to do so that Princess Rong Xian would not do anything to the Shen family. It was not what Shen Miao was willing to see for the pleasant surprise situation to become difficult because of her. One had to know that even though Xie Jingxing said that he was powerful, he did not really hurt her from the beginning to the end. Shen Miao did not know how deep the relationship between Princess Rong Xian and Xie Jingxing was, but in the princess residence, Princess Rong Xian's reaction after confirming Xie Jingxing's identity was indeed chilling. Xie Jingxing did not say anything and looked indifferent as if he did not care about it at all, but Shen Miao knew how much damage one would get from one's close ones. Just like how Fu Xiuyi treated her in the past lifetime and how the second and third household of the Shen family treated her, it was because of how cold they were when they shed all pretense of cordiality and how much they ridiculed each other when they were warm and affectionate. If it was Xie Ding's disregard or harm, Xie Jingxing could not care, but Princess Rong Xian might not. After all, Xie Jingxing's first tiger head bracelet was given to Princess Rong Xian. After all, when he returned to the Ding capital 2 years later and knew that Princess Rong Xian had a heart illness again, he would immediately send people to search for the medicine. After all, there was some friendship in it. Shen Miao stood up with some irritation and walked to the window. She opened the window and looked out. The sky outside the window seemed to be splashed with ink, and the Ding capital in the winter night revealed a bleak and desolate feeling. She thought for a while before turning around to return to the room and took out a thick crimson fur cloak from the box to cover her body. He tied the rope in front of his cloak tightly before walking to the window and calling out softly, "Song Yang." A black shadow fell down from the tree and stood straight in front of Shen Miao and said respectfully, "What instructions does young foreign have?" Shen Miao was now unable to hear Song Yang's address. She hesitated for a moment before saying, "Bring me to see Xie Jingxing." Song Yang opened his mouth wide and sucked in a breath of cold air. He was born to be somewhat serious, and usually had a serious expression on his face. At this moment, his expression was somewhat comical. Shen Miao was somewhat angered by Song Yang's gaze and said, "Do you have any ideas or not?" "Young madam." Song Yang came back to his senses with a troubled expression on his face. "This subordinate doesn't know where master is right now." Shen Miao frowned. Song Yang had been keeping an eye on her in the Shen mansion, so it was indeed impossible for him to know of Xie Jingxing's whereabouts. Tonight when she came out of the princess residence, Xie Jingxing had left too quickly, and she did not have the time to ask. Right now, no one really knew where Xie Jingxing was. But one did not know why. She felt that Xie Jingxing should be in the residence of Prince Rui at this moment. His emotions were hard to distinguish, and he was used to hiding his emotions under a mask. Thus Shen Miao felt that if Xie Jingxing was frustrated, he would be alone. She made a prompt decision and said to Song Yang, "Bring me to the residence of Prince Rui." Song Yang revealed a troubled expression and Shen Miao frowned and asked, "You can't even do this?" Song Yang quickly explained, "This subordinate can naturally do it alone. But bringing along young foreign would not be able to do it." Chapter 754. Shen Miao asked him, "Do you know Qinggong?" Song Yang hurriedly nodded his head. "Then it is all right." Shen Miao said, "Grab me and bring me to the residence of Prince Rui." Her thoughts were very simple, just like what Xie Jingxing did to her in the past. Song Yang was after all Xie Jingxing's people, and to a certain extent was more convenient to use than Mo Qing and the rest. The most important thing was that she did not want Xie Jingxing's identity to be known by more people, as it would be more dangerous for one person to know about it, even if it was a person that one trusted, because there was no telling when one would be used by others. When her words were spoken, Song Yang shook his head repeatedly, and there was even some fear in his eyes. "Cannot." "What is it now?" Shen Miao's patience was about to run out. Song Yang said, "Males and females are not clear." Shan Miao. She did not know where did Xie Jingxing found these guards that were more disciplined than females. But no matter what Shen Miao said, Song Yang was not willing to bring her to the residence of Prince Rui. Shen Miao was also in a difficult situation. If she did not allow Song Yang to use his qinggong, she would have to walk out of the Shen residence's doors. The Shen residence's doors were guarded by Shen Xian soldiers, and it was impossible not to alarm them. To leave in the middle of the night, one feared that before she could even leave the doors, everyone in the family would wake up in 2s and 3s. At that time she would not be able to explain at all. Shen Miao had a terrible headache. She looked at the wall outside the courtyard and suddenly a light bulb went off in her mind. When Xie Jingxing just moved to Yanqing Lane, because he was not short of money to spend, he simply bought all the neighboring residences between the residence of Prince Rui and the Shen Mansion, and even glorified it as neighbors. Looking at it this way, it could be said that the residence of Prince Rui was neighbors to the Shen Mansion. It was just that the room that Xie Jingxing stayed in was a little far away. Since it was a neighbor's residence, Shen Miao's gaze landed on the high wall in the courtyard. She said, "Climb over the wall." Song Yang looked at her blankly, as if he did not believe his own ears. He was ordered to protect Shen Miao's safety and had been watching Shen Miao's every move in the Shen Mansion, so naturally he knew what kind of person Shen Miao was. Shen Miao was dignified and calm, abided by the rules, and was able to endure loneliness at such a young age. She looked like a noble that came from a faraway land. In short, even some of her small actions showed that she had a good upbringing. Song Yang often sighed in his heart that this young madam was different from others. She was born to be extremely noble. Who knew that at this moment, he would hear that this noble young madam wanted to climb over the wall. Song Yang thought that there was something wrong with his ears. Shen Miao glared at him and said without anger, "Are you unable to hear my words?" "Yes, yes, yes." Song Yang stood up straight and did not dare to look at Shen Miao's expression. The following days were enough to make Song Yang feel pain. Previously, he thought that Shen Miao wanted to climb over the wall herself, but the wall that Shen Miao mentioned was to stack things on both sides of the wall to form a staircase. Shen Miao then walked from one side of the wall to the other side. In the middle of the night, Song Yang only went to steal the haystacks that the rich people left to fertilize. But the problem was that there were more than 10 courtyards between the residence of Prince Rui and the Shen Mansion. There were walls between each courtyard and Song Yang was so busy that he was sweating all over even on such a cold day. Seeing Shen Miao arrogantly walking past one wall after another, as if she was not walking on the wall but the high steps of the imperial palace, he sighed and at the same time complained incessantly about his fate. If it was not that he was afraid of tarnishing young madam's body and provoking master's dissatisfaction, Song Yang would not need to put in so much effort. One had to know that his qinggong was not bad and it was more than enough to fly with a person, so why would he need to run around now? Previously, when master transferred him out from Mou's army, his colleagues were all envious of his good luck, but did not know that this good job was to be a coolie for others and was even worse than a manservant. Song Yang silently cried in his heart. Chapter 755. When Shen Miao flipped over the last wall and arrived at the residence of Prince Rui, Song Yang was so tired that he did not want to speak. Because they entered from the direction of the inner courtyard and did not walk through the main entrance, there was not a single guard in the huge residence of Prince Rui. Song Yang also revealed a puzzled expression. Obviously it was not that undisciplined in the past. Shen Miao was still looking at the layout of the residence of Prince Rui. It was indeed as magnificent as the rumors said. It was just a temporary place to stay, and it was actually so meticulously renovated. She did not know how extraordinary the real Great Liang's imperial palace would be. Just as she was thinking, there was an additional black-clad middle-aged male in front of her. "Tai Yi!" Song Yang shouted and immediately asked, "Where are the others?" The guard called Tai Yi was surprised for a moment when he saw Shen Miao and cupped his hands towards her. "Is there an important matter for young Lady Shen to visit?" Shen Miao looked at the other person's appearance and seemed to know her. Seeing that Song Yang was greeting him, she guessed that he was Xie Jingxing's people and said, "I am looking for Prince Rui and have some words to say." Tai Yi seemed to know that she would say that and nodded his head. "Master is in the inner courtyard. Follow me." When Mingqi's winter was cold, no one was willing to walk around outside. If it was at night, there would be no one on the streets. Even the birds, cats and dogs would curl up in their warm nests and were not willing to move at all. The water in the pond had already frozen. The thick ice had completely covered the scenery inside. The entire garden was filled with lotuses and koi swimming in the wind, but it was a vast expanse of whiteness. It seemed that no matter how good the day was, there would be a moment when it would pass, just like how the flowers that bloomed in spring would one day wither. The purple-clad youth was lazily sleeping on the tree with his hands supporting his head. He did not take off the mask on his face, and there was a lantern hanging on the tree. Under the faint halo, his expression could not be said to be desolate nor happy, but there was some slight loneliness. Like the wind passing through the trees, it was light but also cold, quiet and silent. Under the tree, the white tiger lay down. From time to time, it would use its claws to scratch the tree trunk. Occasionally, it would use its mouth to bite the icicles that had fallen on the ground. The crunching sounds of its bite could be heard clearly in the night. When Shen Miao came in, this was the scene that entered her eyes. The youth and the white tiger were sleeping, but it made her think of herself in her previous lifetime. Walking through the imperial garden in the middle of the night in the palace, her eyes seemed to be filled with the laughter of Fu Xiuyi and Mei Furan in the day. It was somewhat bitter as she walked endlessly. When the white tiger suddenly saw that someone was coming, it immediately stood up and looked at her warily with its body arched. It let out a low warning howl, but because it was too small, it didn't seem threatening at all. The sound it made was also hulu-hulu, which was quite cute. Shu jiao jiao. Xie Jingxing said, "Be quiet." Shan Miao. She walked under the tree and raised her head to look at the person sleeping in the thicket. "Who are you calling?" Xie Jing's actions paused and suddenly lowered his head. When he saw Shen Miao, he was surprised and asked, "Why are you here?" The words in the princess residence were not finished, so one came over to take a look. Xie Jingxing swept a glance at her and did not come down from the tree. Instead, he laughed softly. "You came because you are concerned about me? What you think is your business." Shen Miao answered. "Could it be that you think that I will be sad?" Xie Jingxing seemed to have heard a joke, and his expression became more interesting. "Really naive? It is best that there is none." Shen Miao did not care about his somewhat mocking words and spoke calmly. Xie Jingxing stared at the sky and lazily waved his hands. "You go back. I am fine." Chapter 756. Shen Miao did not go back. That white tiger on the ground seemed to have sensed that Shen Miao did not have any ill intentions, and moreover its master did not show any hostility, so it gradually relaxed its vigilance and snuggled up to Shen Miao's feet, making hulu-hu sounds. Shen Miao quietly looked at the youth on the tree. After a long while, she asked, "Xie Jingxing, do you want to destroy Mingqi?" The air quietened down in a moment, and there seemed to be a small lingering light that leaked out from the lantern. The dim light and the branches covered the youth's expression, and even if one could see it, one could not see his expression clearly with the mask. One could only see a corner of the gorgeous purple robe hanging down, and the golden embroidered pattern was shining brightly under the light. Those silk threads crisscrossed, but vaguely outlined a picture of an auspicious beast. It seemed to be a dragon. The silence was frightening as he did not answer. The white tiger whimpered softly before turning and running back into the bushes. Shen Miao leaned against the tree and lightly said, "If at the end you only want to destroy Mingqi, then everyone in the middle can be chosen. Different paths do not work together. Some people are very good but are destined to not be on the same path. If one is not on the same path, then who cares what he does?" Xie Jingxing laughed and his voice was heard from above. "Are you comforting me?" "No. I am comforting myself," Shen Miao answered. She could understand Xie Jingxing as she and Xie Jingxing were somewhat different. Xie Jingxing was a man, and moreover he was more decisive in killing. One believed that after tonight, she would still be that victorious Prince Rue. Nothing would be difficult for him and nothing would be able to stop his footsteps. He was like a lion and was an extremely powerful existence. It was just that when he was licking his wounds alone, she coincidentally bumped into him. "Do you also have sad matters?" Xie Jingxing teased. It was still a cynical tone, but Shen Miao knew that there was no smile in his eyes at the moment. It was because there were some emotions that even he himself was unable to conceal. That was why he went up to the tree where no one could see and was not even willing to take off his mask and sit quietly. My sad matters are no less than yours. Shen Miao smiled gently. At least Princess Rong Xian is still alive. The most painful thing in the world should not be that the person who was misunderstood and blamed is no longer around. Some mistakes can be compensated for and some cannot. Just like her Wan Yu and Fu Ming, she could save many people, but only these two could not be saved. In this lifetime, even if she exhausted her entire life, she could not save them. Regardless of whether she was able to take revenge in the future, or whether she could live a prosperous life with the Shen family, there would never be a chance to make up for this regret. She could only chew it over and over at night. Even entering their dreams was an extravagant hope. You also know that this day will come sooner or later, so why worry so much? Doing one's best and knowing heaven's will, one have done one's utmost benevolence and duty. No matter how excessive the rest are, it is only fate that has reached the end. Shen Miao said, no one is to walk the same path with anyone for a lifetime. For example, my marriage. Fu Xiaoyi and I are not on the same path. The crown prince is not on the same path as me. Huang Fuhao is not, Feng Zixian is not, Luo Ling is not, and Pei Lang is not. Fu Xiaoyi and the crown prince were part of the Fu family, so naturally they were enemies and it was impossible for them to be together with Shen Miao. Huang Fuhao had ulterior motives and Feng Zixian grew up with the wind and current. The flowers that were raised in the greenhouse were different from her bones. Luo Ling's character was upright, so how could he understand the dark schemes in her heart? As for Pei Lang, he had complicated entanglements. In the previous lifetime he had also heavily added a stroke in Shen Miao's life, and this stroke made her and Pei Lang forever separated by something, making it impossible for them to treat each other honestly. Chapter 757. If you say it like this, then there is no one in this world that is with you. Xie Jingxing reminded. That is the truth. Shen Miao silently sighed in her heart. A person who climbed up from the grave and lived a second time in some aspects should be similar to a ghost. She had always been walking alone on the road of revenge. Then comforting me like this would give me an illusion. Xie Jingxing gently smiled. You are with me. The wind picked up the leaves on the ground and blew across the lake. The surface of the lake was as hard as a rock and could not be moved. But one could vaguely see the spring breeze blowing across the surface of the lake, the ripples of the water, the sparkling spring water, and the beautiful scene of red flowers and green willows. Winter will pass and spring will come. Shen Miao's voice was very light, even lighter than the night wind, as it scattered in the air. She said, who says it is not? If you comfort me like this, it will give me the illusion that you are on the same side as me. Who says it is not? A shadow flashed in front of the tree and someone came down from it. The youth's back was tall and handsome. When the white tiger saw its master coming down, it immediately ran over in joy and intimately rubbed against the corner of the other's robes. Do you think that I am the great Liang's Prince Rui or the Marquis of the residence of the Marquis of Lineage? He asked. Shen Miao leaned against the tree with her hands behind her back and looked at his back view. Is this very important? I also thought that it was not important. Xie Jingxing stood by the pond and his voice was calm, as if there was no fluctuation at all as he calmly narrated. From the moment I knew my identity, someone kept reminding me that this is very important. The Marquis of Lineage is weak and incompetent, indecisive and not fit to be a father. Even if the real little Marquis Xie did not die prematurely, he would still die in Madame Fang's hands. Aunt Rong treated me very well. I thought that it was important to others, but to her my identity was not important. But now it seems that I made a big mistake. He lightly said, to the people of the world, this question is important from the beginning to the end. There is no fluke. One thought that some feelings could break through the shackles of identity and family could be above everything, but in the end it was no less than a fierce slap on one's face. Most importantly, it should be that deep sense of disappointment. Shen Miao stared at his back and said after a long time, it is not important to me. Xie Jingxing laughed softly. He turned and walked towards Shen Miao and stopped in front of Shen Miao. He looked down at Shen Miao from above and asked, do you know who I am? You are only Xie Jingxing. She did not want to admit defeat and raised her head as if she wanted to suppress the other's imposing manner. Only, He was slightly displeased. You can deceive others but not me. Shen Miao looked at his mask. I knew what kind of person you were from the beginning. From the moment I met you to the end of the alliance, you are only Xie Jingxing, nothing more. Xie Jingxing made a meaningful "oh" sound. He took another step forward and Shen Miao subconsciously retreated. She was originally leaning against the tree and now with her back against the tree. There was no way to retreat, but Xie Jingxing lifted her chin. Xie Jingxing said, Do you think that I am very cruel? Do not think so. I am also the same. Shen Miao answered. Then do you know that I am not a good person? His voice was low and pleasant to listen to, and in the night when the cold wind blew into one's ears, it made one's body feel hot. Shen Miao shrank back again but was not willing to be looked down upon and only said, No. I am also the same. Xie Jingxing held her waist and pulled Shen Miao towards him. The mask blocked his face and made his handsomeness have a trace of bewitching mystery. He said, Then I can answer your question now. What question? Shen Miao was puzzled. You asked me if I want to destroy Ming Qi. Shen Miao stared at him. That pair of beautiful eyes were full of bright lights that were so deep that one could be sucked in. Then what is your answer? She asked. If I say yes, will you report me? Xie Jingxing smiled evilly. Shen Miao slowly said, Will not. Because I am also the same. Just one sentence, 3 I am also the same, but it made Xie Jingxing's gaze change. It was like a cluster of sparks blooming in the cold icy plains. One could not tell whether he was happy or angry as he only asked, Do you know what you are saying? Shen Miao was silent. He gritted his teeth as if he wanted to swallow Shen Miao whole. He said, Shen Miao, do not regret it. Once you board my boat, do not leave in this lifetime. He suddenly leaned over and kissed Shen Miao. Shen Miao subconsciously wanted to dodge, but Xie Jingxing grabbed her waist and pulled her into his embrace. His cold mask touched Shen Miao's face and imprisoned Shen Miao's hands as he roughly kissed her lips. Chapter 758. 175. His kiss was hot, but the silver mask was cold, as if it was carrying some kind of indescribable emotion that covered the sky and earth. The more Shen Miao struggled, the more firmly he imprisoned her. He locked her in his embrace and used a kind of vow gesture to possess her lips. The flowers that bloomed in the winter, the butterflies that fluttered in the autumn, the ice spring in the summer and the snowflakes in the spring were all unable to describe the strangeness of this moment. There was the whistling sound of the wind beside her ears, but that beautiful youth's embrace was strong and the kiss was scorching hot, as if she was unable to escape even if she tried her entire life. When Xie Jingxing released Shen Miao almost went limp and was almost unable to breathe. In her previous life she admired Fu Xiuyi, but from the beginning to the end, she was hot-headed. On Fu Xiuyi's wedding day, the bridal chamber was just a perfunctory gesture. She had never been so intimate with a male before. Feeling that she had lost her composure, Shen Miao flew into a rage out of humiliation and glared at Xie Jingxing as he supported her to prevent her from falling. But she did not know that she had just been kissed. Her pair of eyes were so moist that they were almost overflowing with water. Her face was flushed red and her red lips were like flower petals, but it made one want to love her even more. Xie Jingxing moved his gaze away to hide it. Other than feeling embarrassed and angry, Shen Miao was also at a loss. In all fairness, she had more or less expected it to be like this. As for why she did not stop it or let it develop, it was because she followed her heart and made a subconscious reaction. Shen Miao did not want to delve into the reason. Tell me about your marriage. Xie Jingxing resumed his cynical tone and said, What are your plans now? Shen Miao looked at him inexplicably. What plans? Xie Jingxing narrowed his eyes at her and his tone was somewhat dangerous. The Crown Prince Luoling, Feng Zixian, Su Mingfeng, Pei Lang. Who do you want to marry? Shen Miao frowned and pretended to think seriously. Xie Jingxing's eyes narrowed and said in an unfriendly tone, You really want to marry someone else? Why can't I want to marry someone else? Kissed me, touched me and dared to wear a green hat on me. Shen Miao, your courage is not small. Shen Miao smiled gently. Could it be that you want me to marry you? You are finally smart for once. Xie Jingxing leisurely said. Shen Miao was surprised for a moment. It was not that she did not think about the relationship between her and Xie Jingxing. The two of them said that they were allies, but in the end, their relationship was even more ambiguous than that. When it comes to the matters between men and women, even if you haven't eaten pork, you've seen pigs run. Shen Miao was also aware of some things from the same heartbeats in those nights. But this did not mean that Xie Jingxing could marry her. Xie Jingxing was Prince Rui of the Great Liang, and she was the daughter of the Ming-Chi's general. Not to mention if Ming-Chi's side would agree, one feared that it would not be easy to explain to Emperor Yonglu. Especially looking at the current situation, Xie Jingxing seemed to have a very high position in the Great Liang. The more power he grasped, it meant that Emperor Yonglu valued Xie Jingxing more. A courtier who was valued by the emperor had many things that were beyond his control, including his own marriage. When Shen Miao was still distracted, she heard Xie Jingxing speaking again. You do not need to worry about anything. Just obediently stay in the room to embroider the dowry and wait for me. When did I agree to marry you? Shen Miao asked. Oh. Xie Jingxing pondered for a moment before his lips hooked up into a smile. He said, I also do not mind cooking the uncooked rice tonight. Shen Miao looked at him vigilantly, but Xie Jingxing smiled and said, You look like you are looking forward to it. Shen Miao decided that she could not continue talking to Xie Jingxing like this anymore. This person was bad to the bones and could not even speak properly with 3 sentences of teasing. She said, I have a solution for the Crown Prince's matter. Chapter 759. Xie Jingxing raised his eyebrows. You already have a countermeasure? I suddenly thought of it. Shen Miao emphasized, Need your help? Need my help? Xie Jingxing smiled gently and whispered as he looked at her. Your husband will help you. Shen Miao. When Shen Miao returned to the Shen mansion from the residence of Prince Rui, it was almost dawn. When they returned, it was naturally Xie Jingxing who brought her back. When he knew that Shen Miao came over by climbing over the wall, Xie Jingxing's smile almost made Shen Miao angry. But after this night, many things quietly changed. Shen Miao had a strange feeling when she was discussing with Xie Jingxing about the countermeasure to the Crown Prince's marriage. She had always been alone on the path of revenge. Now that there was an inexplicable strong enough reliance behind her, it made her feel at ease. Especially that this reliance was rather smart, as he was able to see the loopholes in the countermeasure that she proposed and was able to propose improvements. Shen Miao felt that their partnership was very compatible. Unknowingly, the words that Xie Jingxing said that night floated in Shen Miao's mind. To let her embroider the dowry obediently. Xie Jingxing was a person who looked indifferent on certain matters, but Princess Rong Xian's words were right. He knew what he wanted and what he did not want from the start. Shen Miao was also not clear how much of Xie Jingxing's words were true. But on the matter of Shen Miao's marriage, Xie Jingxing displayed an absolute strength and overbearingness that made others have no room to refute. Shen Miao sighed. The road ahead was long and the muddy waters of Ming-Chi had not been cleared. Thus it was too extravagant to mention about feelings. If Xie Jingxing really had that ability and dared to marry the daughter of another country's general, then there was nothing that she would not dare to marry. Because Shen Miao reached out and touched her heart. One did not know if there would be another person in this world who could make her heart beat again. Her lips were tingling as if there was still a residual heat that made her lower her head. Undeniable duplicity and unsuppressible heartbeat. The young man was handsome and beautiful. He was decisive, wise, and calm in killing. It was difficult to not be tempted. In the residence of Prince Ding, it was brightly lit that night. When Fu Xiui found out that the marriage between Shen Miao and the Crown Prince was suppressed, it was because of Prince Rui's unintentional words. That night, all the advisors were called to the residence of Prince Ding to discuss the matter from beginning to end. I had previously guessed that the relationship between Shen Miao and Prince Rui was not that simple. Now testing it on the Crown Prince, indeed the horse's feet were exposed. Fu Xiui sneered. Once Shen Miao makes a move, Prince Rui would not be able to sit still. Pei Lang stood below with his head lowered and did not say a word. These days, Fu Xiui had changed his previous regard for him, and no longer asked for his opinion on many matters. The contrast was too big and naturally fell into the eyes of the other advisors. They thought that Pei Lang had offended Fu Xiui and were rejoicing in his misfortune, but Pei Lang knew that for such an intelligent person like Fu Xiui to inexplicably give him the cold shoulder, he must have found some clues. Perhaps his relationship with Shen Miao had already been detected by Fu Xiuyi. Although he was burning with anxiety, Pei Lang could not show it at all. Fu Xiuyi had not shed all pretense of cordiality, so he must have his own intentions. Perhaps it was only a suspicion that had not been confirmed. To put up a show, one must complete it and not give up halfway. Pei Lang was deeply aware of this logic, and the reaction he showed was that of an ordinary advisor who was given the cold shoulder. What is Gentleman Pei's opinion? Today for the first time, Fu Xiuyi asked for his opinion. Pei Lang's heart jumped and he lowered his head. This subordinate thinks that one should immediately investigate the relationship between the Shen family and Prince Rui or the Great Liang. Shen Miao's identity is special and represents the most important military power in Mingqi. If the Shen family and Prince Rui had reached an agreement privately, one fear. Chapter 760. The advisors started to discuss. Even though they were dissatisfied with Pei Lang, they had to admit that Pei Lang's words were not wrong. Shen Miao was after all a young lady, and not a great beauty that could cause the downfall of a country. Rather than saying that Prince Rui flew into a rage because of a beauty, it would be more reasonable to say that Prince Rui valued the Shen family behind Shen Miao. Fu Xiuyi said, "Gentleman's words are correct, but I heard about one thing today." Everyone waited for him to say the rest of the words. Shen Miao stayed in Princess Rong Xian's residence for a day. The princess's health was not good, but she was left alone till night. Moreover, it seemed that after Shen Miao left, the princess did not seem to be in a good mood. Fu Xiuyi smiled. Could it be that the princess also knows something? After a moment of silence, one of the advisors said, "Perhaps Princess Rong Xian knows some inside information. Your Highness might as well start from Princess Rong Xian's side. Perhaps you can find some clues." "I also think so." Fu Xiuyi looked at Pei Lang, and one did not know if he was deliberately saying it for him to hear. Even though Shen Miao has the backing of the Shen family, she herself is also very strange. Prince Rui only helped her in every matter, so there must be some hidden reasons. If Princess Rong Xian is also involved, then things would become interesting. Paper cannot wrap fire. I must uncover the secret between them. Fu Xiuyi smiled meaningfully. One still have to rely on everyone. Everyone continuously said that they did not dare. Pei Lang lowered his head, but a trace of uneasiness flashed past his heart. That night, there was no peace in the princess residence. Princess Rong Xian sat in the Xingji courtyard for an entire night. Xie Jingxing did not die and instead became the Great Liang's Prince Rui. This was something that Princess Rong Xian had never thought of. In the past 2 years, Princess Rong Xian had countless times hoped that one day she would discover that Xie Jingxing's death was just a dream. She hoped that when she woke up, that arrogant and handsome youth would still be standing in front of her and lazily call her Aunt Rong. However, when this moment really came, the first thought that came to Princess Rong Xian's mind was not gratification. He was wearing a noble purple gold robe, and the corners of the robe could be embroidered with a flying dragon with golden thread. He wore a cold mask and greeted her familiarly, but he had the title of Prince Rui on his head. That was the biggest threat from Mingqi. Princess Rong Xian was initially angry at being concealed, but when she realized Xie Jingxing's identity, Princess Rong Xian's most instinctive reaction was to be vigilant. This did not mean that she did not love Xie Jingxing, or that all those years of companionship were fake. It was because she was the princess of the Great Liang, and the arrogance and paranoia of the imperial family would always appear at this time. She was writing a letter in front of the table, and it was an obscure reminder to Emperor Wenhui. After writing halfway, she suddenly stopped and tore the paper in front of her into pieces. The entanglement and complexity in her heart could not be expressed in words, but she was not willing to see Xie Jingxing again because she was afraid that she did not dare to face him. And what made Princess Rong Xian most suspicious was that it was fine if Xie Jingxing did not die, but how did he become the younger brother of the Great Liang's Emperor Yonglu, Prince Rui? The title of Prince Rui was obviously not something that could be casually used by others. Was Xie Jingxing originally a Great Liang's person, or was he bought by the Great Liang's people by chance? If it was the former, then it was pardonable, but if it was the latter, then Xie Jingxing was a living traitor to the country. Xie Ding and Xie Jingxing were not close, so it was not possible to ask Xie Ding. Shen Miao must know something, but Shen Miao would definitely not say it. Xie Jingxing was also protecting her, thus it was not easy for Princess Rong Xian to move. After thinking about it, Princess Rong Xian finally thought of a person. Chapter 761. She and Xie Jingxing had grown up together since childhood, and the relationship between the two families was not shallow, and could be considered as Xie Jingxing's best friend in Mingqi. Because they grew up together, they were always together, so there was always time to see Xie Jingxing's different places. The heir of the Count of Pingnan, Su Mingfeng. Princess Rong Xian called a servant to bring the invitation over. The days were getting closer to the end of the year. The commoners were busy preparing for the new year, and the streets and alleys were bustling with activity every day. Life was always so smooth that ordinary people would not be able to think of what the high-ranking people were thinking about. Just like how goshawks and sparrows saw the sky, they were destined to be different. Ever since Emperor Wenhui was shocked by Prince Rui's ambitious idle talk, he had more and more thoughts of forming an alliance with the Qin country. It was just that the real reason for Princess Ming An's case had not been ascertained. Until now there was still a line separating them. But as Emperor Wenhui showed more and more sincerity, Huang Fuhao's attitude also loosened. The Mingqi's government officials were at Huang Fuhao's disposal, and even the Supreme Court of Justice had to accept Huang Fuhao's questioning from time to time. No matter what the final result was, Emperor Wenhui had indeed given Huang Fuhao enough face. Until now, the cause of Princess Ming'an's death was not found, and Huang Fuhao thought that it was not that Mingqi was deliberately covering it up. After all, he had personally seen the progress of the case. Perhaps Princess Ming'an had offended an important person. Otherwise, how could there be no trace left at all? Not mentioning about Princess Ming'an's matter, the words that Prince Rui said to Emperor Wenhui finally reached Huang Fuhao's ears. If one were to say that Huang Fuhao represented the Qin country at the beginning and had the intention to form an alliance with the Mingqi, but deliberately put on airs in an attempt to seek more benefits for himself, then when he heard Prince Rui's words, Huang Fuhao could not sit still. If Prince Rui represented the Great Liang and really wanted to take over the few cities that produced ores in the Mingqi, then as Emperor Wenhui was worried, the Great Liang's ambition was not just a few cities, but the Ding capital and even the entire Mingqi, then the Mingqi would be in danger. Without the lips, the teeth would be cold, and a single Qin country would not be a match for a large number of people, not to mention that after absorbing the Mingqi's troops, weapons and wealth to the Great Liang, it would be even more unstoppable. At that time when the Great Liang would come to clean up the Qin country would not be able to turn the situation around. The purpose of the alliance between the Qin country and Mingqi was only to contain the Great Liang. Huang Fuhao passed the news back to the Qin country. Even though the Qin emperor was angry that he had lost a princess in Mingqi, but a princess was insignificant compared to the entire Qin country. The Qin emperor only let Huang Fuhao temporarily suppress the matter of Princess Ming'an, and must form an alliance with the Mingqi. After Huang Fuhao received the news from the Qin country's emperor, he ran to the Mingqi's palace more frequently these days. One had the intention to form an alliance and the other was worried that he did not have any helpers. They hit it off and on the surface they were happy and harmonious. Thus the relationship between Emperor Wenhui and Huang Fuhao was much closer. Emperor Wenhui had the intention to support the crown prince and previously wanted to marry Shen Miao to the crown prince, but who knew that he would suddenly peak at the Great Liang's ambition and did not dare to take action against the Shen family. Now that Huang Fuhao had come over, it was just right for Huang Fuhao to interact with the crown prince more, and let Huang Fuhao owe the crown prince a favor. Everything in this world was naturally linked in countless ways. Relationships that usually seemed to have nothing to do with each other were intertwined with each other through all sorts of intertwining and weaving. Intelligent people were good at finding places that they could use in these relationships, but if an ordinary person was not careful, they would be lost in all sorts of intertwining. In the residence of the Minister of Land, Shen Dongling was drinking tea. Good quality year grew on the dangerous peaks of the southern country, and a small pinch was worth a few hundred taels of silver. Her posture while sipping tea was graceful and cozy. She was wearing a cotton jacket embroidered with Jiangnan embroidery. She was also very pretty and delicate. At first glance, one could tell that she was a charming young married woman who lived like a prince. Chapter 762. But who would have thought that not long ago, she was still an unknown Shu daughter in the Shun residence. She did not leave the courtyard all year round, and the servants did not recognize that she was a young lady of the Shun residence. Not to mention that when Ran Wanyun was the head of the household, there was not a single sight of meat or oil in the meals for 10 days to half a month. The past and present were like the difference between clouds and mud. People walk towards higher places while water flows downwards. Even though this residence of the Minister of Land was not as powerful as other official families, it was considered to be overflowing with wealth. There had never been anyone who relied on the salary of the imperial court to live. Before marrying into the residence of the Minister of Land, Shen Dongling had always thought that the Wang family followed Prince Shou, but after that she found out that the real master of the Wang family was the Crown Prince. As a Minister of Land, the family actually had such a rich family property. It was because the Wang family had some dealings with the salt smugglers, and the money naturally flowed into the residence of the Crown Prince. But even if the goose's feathers were plucked, the little bit of goose's feathers that were deducted was enough for the family to spend money in the Ding capital. There was no need to think too much, as one had to know that the salt smugglers were a profitable business with little capital. If one were to say that the matter of money was already Shen Dongling's surprise, then Wang Bai himself made Shen Dongling extremely satisfied. Wang Bai looked honest but was actually shrewd and could be considered as one of the great generals under the Crown Prince. In the beginning Shen Yu looked down on Wang Bai, but did not know that it was because she had eyes but could not see. Shen Dongling was born pretty and her temperament was even softer. The most important thing was that she would always give some suggestions on Wang Bai's matters. But she never interfered excessively and cautiously kept a distance. The more it was like this, the better Wang Bai treated her. To marry a wife, one must marry a virtuous one, especially when this wife was not only virtuous and intelligent, but also charming and considerate, which was even more valuable. Wang Bai had always been glad that Shen Dongling and Shen Yu exchanged marriage at that time. In the Minister of Land's family, Wang Bai was the only son and Wang Bai was also very capable. Thus Wang Bai was the one in charge of the Wang family. Naturally, Shen Dongling became the matriarch of the Wang family. The servants all respected her, and if Ran Wanyun was still alive, she would be so angry that she would fall down. That Shu daughter that she regarded as an aunt was now living a more comfortable life than Ran Wanyun, and Wan Yinyang naturally rose with the tide and lived a wealthy life. It was the same today. Wang Bai returned from outside and handed the pastries in his hands to the servant girl. I passed by Guangfu Zhai and bought your favorite cloud cake on the way. Thank you, my husband. Shen Dongling poured tea for him with a smile. Her every move revealed a soft and boneless feeling. Most likely it was because she was the daughter of Wan Yinyang that she had some special amorous feelings in her bones. She smiled and said, "My husband is very happy today. Did something good happen?" Wang Bai didn't hide most of his matters from Shen Dongling, because Shen Dongling wasn't a talkative person. She would occasionally share his worries. Now that Wang Bai and Shen Dongling had just gotten married, they were in a sweet relationship. Wang Bai said, "His Majesty wants Huangfu Hao to have more contact with the Crown Prince. Most likely he wants to establish good relations with Qin." His Majesty had given such a favor to the Crown Prince. It was obvious that he wanted to support the Crown Prince. When a person achieves Tao, his chickens and dogs will also ascend to heaven. Since we are the Crown Prince's people, when the Crown Prince inherits the throne in the future, he will only give us a share of credit. He smiled as he looked at Shen Dongling. Do you think that there should be a celebration? Shen Dongling's thoughts turned for a moment, but immediately a surprised smile bloomed on her face. Really? Finishing, she looked at Wang Bai with some adoration and softly said, "Husband is really powerful. It is really the good fortune that this concubine had cultivated in her previous life to be able to follow husband. Any man's vanity would be greatly satisfied to be looked at by such an enchanting woman with such a worshipful gaze." Wang Bai smiled. "Is this easily satisfied?" He sighed and said regretfully, "If His Majesty had bestowed 5th Shen young lady's marriage to His Highness the Crown Prince would have the support of the Shen family's military and it would be more advantageous. Our chances of winning would be higher. Even though there is a temporary friendship with the Qin country, but in terms of military," he sighed, "strength is often the most important." Chapter 763. Shen Dongling's thoughts turned and she snuggled into Wang Bai's embrace. She reached out to touch Wang Bai's chest and said softly, Husband is just too harsh on yourself. To be able to do all these, one is no longer an ordinary person. This was what Wang Bai wanted to hear. He smiled. You are really content. This concubine is content to have a male like husband. Shun Dongling smiled tenderly and asked unintentionally, now one cannot let fifth younger sister marry the crown prince. Fifth younger sister? Wang Bai was surprised for a moment before saying, almost forgot that you are sisters. His unintentional words were exceptionally harsh to Shun Dongling's ears. It was as if he was saying that she was a Shu daughter and Shin Miao was a Di daughter, and there was a difference between Di and Shu. One's greed would grow with the change of environment. In the past, Shun Dongling had to be busy protecting herself in the Shun residence and find a way for herself to survive. Thus she could endure those ridicule and sarcasm, and did not have the time to bother about it. However, when she became the foreign of the Minister of Land, she became especially sensitive to these things. She buried her head in Wang Bai's embrace and did not let Wang Bai see her somewhat hazy expression at the moment but asked, is it not possible? It is not that it is not possible. Wang Bai said, it is just that it is difficult to see the great Liang's ambitions and other matters will be delayed. One still needs Shen Xian's prestige. It is just that Shan Miao is not young anymore and one heard that the Shen family does not wish for Shan Miao to marry into the residence of the crown prince. The key point of this matter is to complete it as soon as possible. If it is dragged on for too long, it would be hard to avoid changes. Shen Xian would find a marriage for Shan Miao, and there is a high possibility that Shen Miao would be married off. At that time, the crown prince's plans would fall through. Cannot the marriage be settled first? Shen Dongling asked. Fool. Wang Bai said, Shen Miao herself is also not willing to marry the crown prince. If one were to use extreme means, it would not be good to make Shen Xian dissatisfied at this time. Isn't this bullying others with one's own power? Shen Dongling's lips twitched. However, her words did not even have the slightest thought for Shan Miao and treated those bandits who disregarded the wishes of others and imposed their demands on others as people who were wronged. Can be said that. Wang Bai said with a smile. Then why are they allowed to use their power to bully others, but not the crown prince? Wang Bai smiled. The crown prince is a virtuous man. He cannot do such a thing. The crown prince can't do such a thing, but someone else can? For example, ordinary people. If everyone in the world wants fifth sister to marry the crown prince, wouldn't this be considered as using the power of the common people to bully others? Wang Bai originally thought that Shen Dongling was speaking in a fit of pique, but who knew that when she heard the latter part, her expression gradually became serious. He looked at Shen Dongling. Shen Dongling sat in his arms, looking adorable and innocent, as if she had just said it casually. But Wang Bai was a smart person. He could find some details from Shen Dongling's words. He asked, don't tell me you have another bad idea? Tell me about it. My husband is really cunning. What's in it for me? Shen Dongling asked. Yes. Wang Bai pretended to think for a moment and said, if you say it well, then I will think of a way to ask for a title of nobility for you. He thought that if Shen Dongling really had a way to let Shen Miao marry the crown prince, then he would have made a great contribution. Even if the crown prince ascended to the throne in the future, he would still remember his kindness. It was not a loss to ask for a title of nobility for Shen Dongling. When Shen Dongling heard it, a trace of satisfaction flashed in her eyes. She said, I am not doing it for the title of a foreign, but for you, my husband. Whatever my husband wants to do, this concubine will naturally support it. If my husband wants to assist the future ruler, then this concubine, can only show her incompetence. She said wittily, which made Wang Bai's heart happy. Actually, this method is very simple. As long as the crown prince of the Qin country cooperates, it will be fine. She said. Chapter 764. This method is very simple. As long as the crown prince of the Qin kingdom cooperates, it will be fine. Shen Dongling said. When Wang Bai heard this, he asked, what do you mean? Shen Dongling smiled. Currently our Mingqi is not about to form an alliance with the great Liang. According to my husband's words, the Qin state must be happy to form an alliance with us. What if the condition of the Qin kingdom's alliance is to marry the fifth sister? That's naturally not possible. Even if His Majesty had no choice but to agree for the sake of the commoners, General Shen would not agree to marry 5th Shen young lady far away. Wang Bai was very clear that everyone in the entire Ding capital knew that Shen Xian doted on his daughter Shen Miao. It was already impossible for her to marry out of the country, not to mention to a faraway place like the Qin state, not even once in a few years. Shan Dongling smiled. It is precisely this logic, but if this news were to spread out and the commoners of Mingqi know of this matter, they would definitely request General Shen to marry 5th younger sister over. After all, Huang Fu Hao was the crown prince of the Qin kingdom, and his looks were not bad. It would not be a loss for 5th sister to marry him. If eldest Bo did not agree and the Qin country would not form an alliance with Mingqi, perhaps the Great Liang would take advantage of the loophole and the Mingqi would be in danger. 1/5 sister in exchange for the safety of the common people. Regardless of whether it's worth it in eldest uncle's eyes, it's worth it in the eyes of the common people. Wang Bai fell into deep thought. Shan Dongling continued. Everyone knows that my first uncle puts the righteousness of the world above his own life. Now, he is being threatened by the common people. He can risk his life against the government, but he cannot disregard the wishes of the common people. Even His Majesty cannot act recklessly. He has to consider the wishes of the people. Not to mention my uncle. On one hand, eldest uncle did not want the Great Liang to have an opportunity to take advantage of. On the other hand, he would definitely not allow 5th younger sister to marry far away. But who could stop Huang Fu Hao? Even if they did, they might not dare to do so. At this time, as long as His Royal Highness the Crown Prince comes forward and says that 5th younger sister has already been selected by the Crown Prince's residence, everything will be easily solved. Wang Bai was a little hesitant. Shen Dongling continued to smile and said, Huang Fu Hao cannot ignore the Crown Prince's face. Moreover, there were indeed rumors of this matter a few days ago. Huang Fu Hao only needed to ask around and he would be able to find out. Compared to marrying Huang Fu Hao and living far away in Qin, first uncle was naturally more willing for 5th younger sister to marry into the Crown Prince's residence, where he could look after her from time to time. The Crown Prince stepped forward bravely at this critical juncture. Eldest uncle will be grateful for the Crown Prince's kindness. Wang Bai's eyes lit up. He was astute to begin with, so he naturally discerned the merits of Shen Dongling's method, and he fell into deep contemplation. Shen Dongling did not finish her words. She wrapped one arm around Wang Bai's neck and said, But this play naturally needs Huang Fu Hao and His Highness the Crown Prince to cooperate. Your Highness the Crown Prince can give Huang Fu Hao some benefits, and Huang Fu Hao will get it. Let's put on a show together, and let nature take its course. Wang Bai hugged Shen Dongling tightly and kissed her on the cheek. I never thought that I would marry a think tank. Shen Dongling lowered her head in shame. Don't tease me, my husband. I just thought of it suddenly. There must be many inappropriate parts, but my husband will definitely think of a way to make up for it. It is already not easy for you to think of all these. The more Wang Bai looked at Shen Dongling, the happier he felt. This time you have helped me a lot. Rest assured, when the matter is completed, I will definitely mention your contribution in front of the Crown Prince, and let our linger to be awe-inspiring. Shen Dongling's heart was filled with disdain. When a man established a career, what they were most afraid of was that the credit would be shared by others, not to mention that she was a female. It would be strange if Wang Bai would mention her contribution, and it was just flowery words at this moment. Chapter 765. However, understanding was one thing, but Shen Dongling still pushed Wang Bai away and said anxiously, My husband, please don't mention that this was concubine's idea. Who would scheme against his own sister for no reason? If it wasn't for helping my husband solve his problems today, I wouldn't have ended up like this. If these words were to spread, how would I be able to face others in the future? Wang Bai was just casually saying it, and if Shen Dongling were to accept it, he would feel that she was too greedy for credit, but at this moment Shen Dongling's flustered rejection made him feel extremely satisfied. The more he looked at Shen Dongling, the more adorable she was, and the more glad he was that Shen Dongling and Shen Yu had exchanged marriage. He said, Fine, I won't say any more. But this was not a bad thing. Marrying the Crown Prince, and in the future when the Crown Prince ascends to the throne, 5th Shen young lady would be the noble consort, and in the future she would thank you. This is a good thing that you can't get even if you beg for it. Shen Dongling smiled and said, this concubine thinks so too. But in her heart she knew that Shen Miao was not a person who coveted power, and the Shen family had already regarded Shen Miao as the pearl in their palms, so those riches and honor were not important to her. From some aspects, Shen Miao was the same as Shen Xian, with a kind of stubbornness in their bones. For others, marrying the crown prince was a good thing. Even if they didn't want it before, they would be satisfied after a few days. But Shen Miao was different. If she took a wrong step, she could kill herself. Even if he didn't show it on the surface, he definitely wouldn't feel good in his heart. Sorry, Shen Dongling said in her heart. In the entire Shunshan residence, the person she was most unwilling to be enemies with was Shen Miao, because Shen Miao was also very dangerous and had the unconditional support of Shen Xian and wife. However, the present was different from the past. Now that Shen Dongling had the qualifications to go against Shen Miao, Shen Dongling suddenly remembered that she was actually jealous of Shen Miao. Shen Dongling was able to step on the rest of the people in the Shen residence, including the second and third household, Shen Yu and Shen Qing, but she could not be compared to Shen Miao. The family that Shen Miao relied on was precisely what Shen Dongling would never be able to obtain. Once a lowly person gained power, they would abandon their previous cautiousness and humbleness, which would instead make people feel even more twisted. This was why a scholar from a poor family would become incomparably arrogant when he became a minor official in the dynasty. Because of his status, he was afraid that others would see through him at any time. Shen Dongling was lost in thought when she heard Wang Bai say, "At this time we need to make a good plan. I have to discuss this with the crown prince first." Shen Dongling came back to her senses and said with a smile, "It would be good to invite fifth younger sister out." She thought for a moment and said, "I can send an invitation to fifth younger sister." "Oh," Wang Bai asked, "will he come out?" It was as if she had long known that the relationship between Shen Dongling and Shen Miao was not close, but when it fell into Shen Dongling's ears, it seemed to be mocking the difference between her and Shen Miao. Suppressing the displeasure in her heart, Shen Dongling said, "My husband doesn't believe me? Don't worry, I will definitely call fifth younger sister out." In the residence of the Count of Pingnan, Su Mingfeng was currently having a headache. Yesterday Princess Rong Xian actually came to the residence of the Count of Pingnan. Princess Rong Xian had not gone out for a long time and lived in seclusion, so no one paid attention to her. Moreover, she was in disguise, so Su Mingfeng almost did not recognize her. For Princess Rong Xian to lower herself to come to the residence of the Count of Pingnan, there must be a very important matter. Princess Rong Xian let the servants directly inform Su Mingfeng, indicating that this matter had nothing to do with Su Yu and was specially here for him. Even though Su Mingfeng was puzzled, he did not dare to neglect and welcomed Princess Rong Xian in, thinking that Princess Rong Xian wanted to instruct him to do something. Who knew that Princess Rong Xian was not here to instruct people but to inquire about information. Chapter 766. And the news that she inquired about also made Su Mingfeng surprised. The news that Princess Rong Xian inquired about was about Xie Jingxing. Xie Jingxing died 2 years ago in the battlefield of the northern Jiang. Because everyone in the Ding capital knew that Xie Jingxing and Princess Rong Xian had a very good relationship, so after Xie Jingxing died, Princess Rong Xian fell into a serious illness. Since then, no one dared to mention Xie Jingxing in front of Princess Rong Xian, lest it made Princess Rong Xian remember the sad things. Who knew that now Princess Rong Xian took the initiative to ask about Su Mingfeng. Princess Rong Xian asked Su Mingfeng about Xie Jingxing's past matters, and even beat around the bush to find out if Xie Jingxing had any secrets. Finally, she asked about Xie Jingxing's corpse. Xie Jingxing was initially killed by the enemy's tens of thousands of arrows at the northern Jiang, and his head was hung on the city walls by the enemy's leader before being skinned and dried. At that time, the Xie family's army could not fake it under the watchful eyes of everyone. Afterwards, when they thought of ways to retrieve the corpse, it was already so tragic that it was shapeless and it was not a complete corpse. At that time, when Xie Ding saw Xie Jingxing's corpse, he fainted, and Princess Rong Xian was afraid that she could not take it and did not dare to look. It was Su Mingfeng, his childhood playmate, who sent Xie Jingxing on his last journey. Now that Princess Rong Xian came to ask Su Mingfeng if he was sure that the corpse was Xie Jingxing, If it was normal times, Su Mingfeng would at most feel some doubts, but ever since he met Shen Miao on the streets and discovered the tiger head bracelet on Shan Miao's wrist, Su Mingfeng had some doubts in his heart and kept staring at Shan Miao's movements in the Shan residence. Princess Rong Xian would suddenly look for him to inquire about Xie Jingxing's matter. Su Mingfeng almost immediately confirmed his own guess. Xie Jingxing did not die, and most likely was still alive in this world. Even though he did not understand why Xie Jingxing did not appear if he was still alive, Su Mingfeng was not stupid. After he dealt with Princess Rong Xian with a few words, Princess Rong Xian left and Su Mingfeng fell into his own thoughts. Since Princess Rong Xian had doubts, she must have found some clues, which meant that Xie Jingxing must have revealed something. Thinking of Shen Miao's bracelet and Princess Rong Xian's strange behavior, Su Mingfeng had a bold guess. Not only did Xie Jingxing not die, he was also in the Ding capital. But what made Su Mingfeng puzzled was that there were no secrets between Xie Jingxing and Princess Rong Xian, and their relationship was the best. What was it that made Xie Jingxing unwilling to tell the truth in front of Princess Rong Xian? Moreover, why did Princess Rong Xian ask about Xie Jingxing's childhood? What was the connection? No matter what the reason was, Su Mingfeng felt that Xie Jingxing had his own reasons. The most important thing was to find Xie Jingxing's whereabouts. After finding Xie Jingxing, all the questions would naturally be answered. Where could she go to find Xie Jingxing? One could say that the Ding capital was not big, but it was definitely not small. To find a person who was hiding in the vast sea of people, especially when that person was quite capable, it was definitely not an easy matter. Su Mingfeng intended to send people to keep an eye on Princess Rong Xian. Since Princess Rong Xian had already found some clues, the thing she grasped must be more than him. Whatever Princess Rong Xian investigated, he only needed to follow behind and take advantage of it. Su Mingfeng raised his hand to summon the servants. She whispered a few words into his ear. When Shen Miao received Shen Dongling's invitation, Xie Jingxing was drinking tea in her room. Ever since that night, Xie Jingxing had a justifiable reason to manage her matters. At first Shen Miao was not used to it, but later she got used to it. Anyway, Xie Jingxing's hands and eyes were everywhere, and even if she did not tell him, he would think of ways to find it himself. At the end it would still be the same ending. Xie Jingxing glanced at the invitation in her hands and said, Shen Dongling. Chapter 767. Most likely he is planning something, Shen Miao said, inviting me to taste the incense. She was startled for a moment before smiling. Since the incense is out, it seems that the foundation of the Minister of Land's residence is not bad. Tasting tea and wine were generally very standard, but tasting the incense was different. A good piece of incense was worth 1,000 gold, and it would be gone once it was burned. Shen Miao knew that the most expensive incense was the jade pear agarwood. A piece of the size of a fingernail would cost 10,000 taels of gold. There was once a merchant from the western region that came to the palace as a tribute, and wanted the title of an imperial merchant. That jade pear agarwood was the size of a child's fist and was very rare. At that time all the concubines in the inner palace came to take a look, and Shen Miao also felt that it was a novelty. Shen Miao had always thought that the jade pear agarwood would be placed in the imperial treasury, as it was a very precious thing. Afterwards, on Mei Foran's birthday, Fu Xiuyi lit the jade pear agarwood and won the beauty's smile. Tasting the incense was burning real gold and silver, and it was equivalent to losing a lot of banknotes. Shen Dongling's invitation said phoenix mouth agarwood, and it was also very precious. The salary of the Minister of Land's family would definitely not be able to withstand this kind of torment. It was obvious that the family that Shen Dongling married into was a well-off family. After all, many of the officials in the Ding capital would not be squandering like this. One did not know if Xin Yu in the Nine Springs would be so angry that she would come back to life after knowing the truth. Phoenix mouth agarwood is not cheap, and to spend so much money, it is definitely not just for sisters to reminisce about old times. Scheming against you? Xie Jingxing raised his eyebrows and asked. Shen Li is not Shen Yu. If she really wanted to scheme against me, I would not be easily schemed by her. Shen Dongling is not stupid, and I guess that she wanted me to go to plan something. If I were to go over, it would only make her matters smoother. If I do not go, there would not be much loss. Shen Miao smiled. I just feel that the Minister of Land's family actually have so much money. She looked at Xie Jingxing. When Shen Miao saw Shen Dongling at the execution ground, she noticed that Shen Dongling's clothes and jewelry were extremely expensive. No matter how much Wang Bai doted on her, it was not rational to exceed what the Wang family could afford. Then where did the Wang clan get so much silver? Xie Jingxing caught a glimpse of Shen Miao's eyes and tactfully continued. The Wang family is the Crown Prince's people, and the Crown Prince has some relations with the salt smugglers. Wang Bai is the middleman. Shen Miao was suddenly enlightened. No wonder selling illicit salt was a highly profitable business, and even if it was just a small change, it was enough to make one envious. No wonder the Wang family could burn incense. As such, Shen Miao somewhat understood where Shen Dongling's confidence came from. If Shen Dongling had married an ordinary official, she would have been very careful. But now that the Wang family was overflowing with wealth and Wang Bai was working under the Crown Prince, Shen Dongling thought that with Emperor Wen Hui supporting the Crown Prince, the great cause of the world would eventually be in the Crown Prince's hands. With the rising tide, the boat would rise, and Wang Bai, as the person who worked for the Crown Prince, naturally would have his value increase. She was Wang Bai's official wife and had boundless glory. It was probably because he was blinded by the glory that he became bolder. Shen Dongling couldn't always keep a clear head, so she couldn't see the facts clearly. There were so many variables in the world, so who could guarantee that the Crown Prince would inherit the throne? Taking 10,000 steps back, even if the Crown Prince inherited the throne, who could guarantee that Wang Bai would be able to sit back and relax under the Crown Prince and rise up step by step? There were many cases of the cunning hare being cooked after it was done, and the most ruthless was the imperial family. Wang Bai is the Crown Prince's people. Shen Miao pondered. Shen Dongling's sudden action must be related to Wang Bai, which means it is related to the Crown Prince. Shen Miao looked at Xie Jingxing. My relationship with the Crown Prince. She wants to make an issue out of my marriage? Chapter 768. Xie Jingxing looked at her with appreciation. Smart? You already knew about it? Shen Miao was somewhat suspicious. It was Shen Dongling's idea. Xie Jingxing casually picked up a piece of pastry and took a bite before saying, to let Huangfu Hao and the Crown Prince come to an agreement and act out a play together. Using your marriage to Huangfu Hao as a request to form an alliance with Ming Qi. Otherwise the alliance would break apart and they might attack Ming Qi. At that time the news would be released and the commoners would panic and ask Shen Exine to marry you to Huangfu Hao. On one side is the commoners and on the other side is you. Shen Exine would definitely be in extreme pain. But no one in the world would dare to go against Huangfu Hao. At this time only the Crown Prince would come forward and say that you and the Crown Prince already have an engagement. Compared to marrying you to the distant Qin country, it would be easier for Shen Exine to accept you marrying the Crown Prince to stay in Ming Qi, and would be grateful to the Crown Prince. Xie Jingxing shrugged his shoulders. This Shu younger sister of yours is also not a simple character. Shen Miao's face turned livid when she heard this and sneered. She really racked her brains for me? She actually used the commoners of the world to threaten Shen Exine. The inheritance that she received from old General Shan was to fight for the commoners. And when Shen Exine was being threatened by the commoners that he deeply loved, the other side was Shen Miao, his biological daughter. One could imagine how painful Shen Exine's heart was. Among everyone in the Shen residence, Shen Miao and Shen Dongling had always minded their own business. Now that the one who provoked first was cheap, Shen Miao had an uncontrollable disgust towards Shen Dongling. She said, the marriage with the Crown Prince is not possible. Xie Jingxing stared at her with a smile that was not a smile. Why? Want to marry me that much? Not waiting for Shen Miao to get angry, he continued, do not worry. No one in the world would dare to snatch things from my hands. One fear that he would not be able to afford the woman that I fancy. His words were always so unscrupulous that Shen Miao's face inexplicably turned slightly red. She diverted the topic. Shen Dongling schemed against me. Naturally I have to return 1 or 2 points. Foreign's meaning is my meaning. Xie Jingxing said lazily. Shen Miao, she said, what exactly do you mean now? To destroy Ming Qi and unify the Great Liang? I said before, on this point I am the same as you. Shen Miao replied. I've said it before. On this point I'm the same as you. Shen Miao replied. The joking expression on Xie Jingxing's face gradually disappeared. He did not know what Shen Miao was thinking in her heart, as he could not see any clue at all. On the matter of the two countries being enemies, Xie Jingxing had never thought that Shen Miao would support him. Now Shen Miao's state of disregard had already made Xie Jingxing very surprised. And now Shen Miao's expression reminded him that what she said was serious. She wanted to destroy Ming Qi? Why? Shen Miao was not a person who was greedy for fame and fortune, so it was not to echo what he said. And because she loved Xie Jingxing, she could even throw Ming Qi to the back of her mind. Xie Jingxing felt that it was not like it. It seemed that from the moment she knew Shen Miao had been extremely hostile towards the Fu family. Of course, this was because the Fu family also wanted to suppress the Shen family, but Shen Miao was an unmarried girl. How would she know about these things? Sometimes when she looked, she could see more clearly than Shen Xian and Shan Qiu. She had always stood in front of the Shen family with a protective attitude, as if she had long expected what would happen. The closer one was to Shen Miao. The more one discovered that there were many mysteries about Shen Miao. But these actions, even the Fengxian pawnshop could not find out the reason. It really made one suspicious. He hesitated for a moment before asking, "You do not like Ming Qi?" Shen Miao's eyes drooped down. The general trend of the world: divided for a long time, united for a long time, divided for a long time. This has been the logic since ancient times. It is not something that can be changed if I am willing or not, like or not. Even if I am not willing or not like, these things will still happen. This is destined. She raised her head and looked at the slightly swaying candle on the table. Moreover, compared to the Fu family, I would rather this country be in your hands. Chapter 769. Xie Jingxing was surprised for a moment. When two countries are at war, it has nothing to do with the common people. These few years, Ming Qi's luck is already at its end. The taxes are heavy and there are continuous natural disasters, making the common people's lives difficult. The officialdom is dark and the officials are corrupt. The emperor is even more muddle-headed. Towards the aristocratic families that had made great contributions, he was wary of schemes and could not wait to kill them. In comparison, the common people of Great Liang are living and working in peace and all industries are flourishing. Shen Miao said, I know that Emperor Yonglu is a wise ruler. At the beginning, when he attacked other small countries, there were people of other small countries that opened the city gates to welcome him. Isn't it because of this reason? Xie Jingxing looked deeply at Shen Miao, and there was an indescribable feeling in his heart. Everyone said that females were the most short-sighted and short-sighted, only able to see the front and not the bigger picture. Little did they know that it was just that they had not encountered it before. Xie Jingxing had seen the most broad-sighted and knowledgeable female was his imperial sister-in-law, Emperor Yongli's wife, Empress Xianda. But Empress Xianda was from a historian's family, and had a strong memory, and was also the ruler of the 6 palaces. Shen Miao was only 16 years old and the furthest place she had been to was the Shaochun city. 2 years ago, she was even called a love-struck idiot. But Shen Miao's words about the current situation could not be compared to most of Emperor Yongli's aides. She did not see herself as a person of a certain country, but stood at the height of history and calmly followed the law, just like following the changes of the 4 seasons. There were not many people in the world who could see so clearly, but this person was sitting in front of him. Xie Jingxing suddenly felt somewhat fortunate. He was the one who discovered this female and Shen Miao was willing to say these words to him. Shen Miao did not know what Xie Jingxing was thinking in his heart. She only heard Fu Xiuyi's evaluation of Emperor Yonglu, saying that Emperor Yonglu was an outstanding person throughout the ages and a wise ruler of a generation. The initial territory of Great Liang was not as vast as today, especially after the death of the late Emperor of Great Liang. There was a period of turmoil in the country and other countries took the opportunity to invade. Afterwards, when the current Emperor Yonglu ascended the throne, he slowly began to recover the territory, and not only that, he also started to annex the surrounding small countries. Emperor Yonglu was a very charismatic person and followed the hearts of the people. Some of the small countries' people even hoped that Emperor Yonglu would annex them to improve their difficult lives. And Emperor Yonglu did it. At that time, Shen Miao was very surprised by this matter, and Fu Xiuyi was also very fearful of Emperor Yonglu. Afterwards, when Fu Ming was studying, He also read about this and discussed it with Shen Miao in high spirits, thus Shen Miao had a deep memory of this matter. Xie Jingxing paused for a moment and said unhappily, "Why do you remember his matters so clearly?" "Shen Miao," she said, "of course I'm not that great. I'm just trying to protect myself. If the Fu family was in charge, the Shen family would be destroyed sooner or later. If the monarch was heartless, the officials naturally had no need to uphold morality and justice. Isn't that right? Then how do you know that Emperor Yonglu would not be the second Emperor Wen Hui, and would not take action against the Shen family?" Xie Jingxing asked. One heard that Emperor Yonglu has a general surnamed Li by his side, and his experience was similar to the Shen family, but the Li family was treated with courtesy by Emperor Yonglu. The Shen family's military strength is not as good as that General Li, so there is no need to worry. Shen Miao thought in her heart that at least in her previous lifetime before she died, this General Li's family lived very well. Xie Jingxing was startled. "How do you know that there is a General Li?" Shen Miao's heart moved. She had forgotten that she was now the daughter of the Shen family, so naturally it was not possible for her to know the great Liang's General Li. But she still had to cover up a few words. "This General Li is very famous, so it is not strange that Ming Qi knows of him." "Very famous?" Xie Jingxing frowned. "More famous than me?" Shen Miao was determined not to say these words to him and said, "Let's not talk about these. Since one must deal with Ming Qi at the end, naturally one cannot let the Qin country and Ming Qi form an alliance. If it is so, it would be somewhat troublesome for the great Liang to deal with. You staying in my Ding capital and not leaving, is it not to break up their alliance?" Xie Jingxing smiled gently. "Following one's husband when one marries. You are very thoughtful for me." Shen Miao ignored the parts of his words that should not be heard and said, "There is a good way to break up their alliance. Just see if you can do it or not." Xie Jingxing's lips hooked up. "Tell me about it." "Killing, stealing, framing and slandering." She smiled gently and dignified. "It is best that there is no evidence when dead." Chapter 770. The days seemed to be exceptionally calm, but no one knew if there were any plans hidden under the calmness. Everyone in the residence of Prince Ding was in danger these few days, especially the few advisors that Fu Xiaoyi valued, and they were very careful when they did things. It was because a few days ago Pei Lang, whom Fu Xiaoyi valued the most, was arrested and locked up in the private prison. Everyone was not clear about the specific reason, but there were some servants who were in the know that it was because Pei Lang was a spy sent by Fu Xiaoyi's opponent. Before this, no one could deny Pei Lang's talent. Even though the guests were jealous that Fu Xiaoyi valued him highly, but Pei Lang had indeed solved a lot of problems for Fu Xiaoyi in these 2 years. Fu Xiaoyi said that he would capture him. Not to mention whether this matter was true or not, but the night before he was captured, Pei Lang and Fu Xiaoyi were playing chess and drinking tea together, looking like a ruler and official in harmony. If Fu Xiaoyi suddenly knew of the clues, he would definitely investigate if it was true or not, otherwise he would wrongly accuse a good person and damage a confidant for no reason. But Fu Xiaoyi was so decisive that it could only mean that he had long suspected Pei Lang. To be able to be this intimate even after having doubts, this Prince Ding was not a simple person. No matter if it was to punish the chicken to warn the monkey, the advisors were much more respectful when they faced Fu Xiaoyi. However, Fu Xiaoyi's days were not as comfortable as other people thought, and he also had some doubts about some things. He sent people to keep an eye on Princess Rong Xian's residence, and at the end learned that Princess Rong Xian actually disguised herself and went to Pingnan Count residence to look for Su Mingfeng. Even though he did not know what they talked about and did not know why Princess Rong Xian was there, Fu Xiaoyi thought that there was definitely something fishy about it. Princess Rong Xian lived in seclusion, and did not even have a close relationship with Emperor Wen Hui. If there was anything, it would be the early years when Princess Yuqing and Princess Rong Xian were close. But Princess Yuqing had died for many years and Princess Yuqing's son, Xie Jingxing, was close to Princess Rong Xian, but Xie Jingxing had already died in the northern Zhang battlefield 2 years ago. There was no friendship between Pingnan Count residence and Princess Rong Xian. Fu Xiaoyi racked his brains to think of the connection between Princess Rong Xian and the southern Count residence, but no matter how he searched, he could not find any valuable clues. What made Fu Xiui puzzled was why Princess Rong Xian did not look for the Count of Pingnan, Suyu, but only Su Mingfeng. Su Mingfeng had long left his official career, and for official matters, Su Mingfeng could not help at all. If it was for private matters, did Su Mingfeng privately know Princess Rong Xian? Su Mingfeng, Su Mingfeng. Fu Xiui was chewing on this name when he was suddenly surprised. Su Mingfeng's name was well known by many people in the Ding capital. It was not only because he was outstanding and talented, nor was it because it was a pity that he had to retire from the official path due to a serious illness when his career was just right, but it was because he was Xie Jingxing's childhood friend. There was once someone who did not understand why Su Mingfeng would mix around with Xie Jingxing, that playful and mischievous brat, all day long when Su Mingfeng looked at this upright and awe-inspiring youth. But the residents of the Marquis of Lin and the residents of the Count of Pingnan were old friends, so it was understandable to say that their relationship was good. As if he had found some clues, Fu Xiuyi's thoughts were suddenly connected. Su Mingfeng was Xie Jingxing's childhood friend, and Princess Ming'an was Xie Jingxing's imu. If Princess Ming'an privately went to look for Su Mingfeng, they would most likely talk about Xie Jingxing. But was Xie Jingxing not dead? Why would Princess Ming'an suddenly go and ask about a dead person? If it was in the past, everyone would not dare to mention a single word about Xie Jingxing in front of Princess Ming'an, as they were afraid of poking into Princess Ming'an's sore spot. Princess Ming'an took the initiative to ask, could it be that Xie Jingxing was not dead? Fu Xiui jumped in shock at his own sudden guess, but quickly denied it. He had personally seen the secret report on Xie Jingxing's death, so there would not be any mistake. Not to mention that under the watchful eyes of the public, it was impossible to replace the beam with the pillar. Chapter 771. But it was obvious that it was to follow Princess Ming'an to investigate Prince Rui's matter. So why would it suddenly go to Su Mingfeng's head and even involve the dead Xie Jingxing? If that was the case, things would become complicated, but it was also more interesting. Fu Xiui stood up and thought for a moment before instructing the person beside him, go to the dungeon. There was a dungeon in the residence of Prince Ding, and it was built in the ancestral hall in the courtyard. The imperial family's ancestral hall was not here, and the reason why it was built in the residence was to pray to Buddha. There was a benevolent-looking Guanyin statue on the wall, and when one opened that painting, one would see a small smiling Buddha. After twisting the wooden fish at the feet of the smiling Buddha, the stone door would suddenly open and one would enter the dungeon of Prince Ding's residence after walking along the stone door. The people locked up in this dungeon were either spies or people under Prince Ding, who had committed a big mistake. Normal death was not enough to punish them, and there were all kinds of torture that one would be filled with the smell of blood upon entering. Thin leather-like things were hung on the stone walls. Upon closer inspection, they were actually people who had died. They had been skinned and hung here to dry. They still had the look of extreme agony on their faces before they died. Just a glance at them was enough to make one shudder. Outside was the ancestral hall for praying, but inside was such a demonic business. Under Guanyin's eyelids, this place was like the 18th level of hell, and was even more terrifying than the 18th level of hell. Fu Xiui leisurely walked in and looked at the human skins on both sides with eyes full of appreciation. The subordinate beside him led the way and only stopped when they reached the last cell. The person locked up in the cell was hung upside down on the beam and his entire body was drenched in blood. His robes were dyed bright red and one could hardly see the original color. Because he was hung upside down, there would be drops of blood dripping onto the ground from time to time, forming a small blood stain. Fu Xiui quietly looked at that person and that person seemed to have fainted. He gave a look to the person beside him, and immediately someone brought a bucket of chilly water and poured it on the person in the cell. That person quivered and his entire body could not help but tremble, as if he was in so much pain that he could not speak and was suffering great pain. Fu Xiui smiled and went forward. Is teacher used to it? The chilly water stung the wound, but it also washed away the bloodstains on the prisoner's face, revealing a proud face. It was Pei Lang. Pei Lang smiled and replied with a trembling voice, "Thanks to your highness, I'm doing well. I've long known that Mr. isn't an ordinary person, but I didn't expect that not only are you talented, but your integrity is also worthy of my respect. Otherwise, why would the Shen family send you here?" Fu Xiui sighed. It was said that the soldiers that Shen Exine leads are all valiant and teacher is a scholar, but one's bones are so hard. This in would also like to know how General Shen trains people. Pei Lang gasped for breath and said with a smile, "This subordinate has no relationship with General Shen. It's already been a few days, but you're still so persistent." Fu Xiaoyi said, "Even though the moral integrity is commendable, at the end it gives one a headache and one has no choice but to specially prepare some unusual games for gentlemen." Pei Lang only smiled and said nothing. Fu Xiaoyi looked at him and spoke in a very gentle tone, as if there was some nostalgia. "Actually, this prince and you, master and servant, can be considered to have a good friendship. Your talent is like the rain, and this inn also appreciates it. This prince is soft-hearted and is willing to give you a chance. After atoning for your crimes, it will be as if nothing happened in the past. This prince will still be the same as you in the past. This prince will address you as teacher, and you are this prince's most capable think tank." He got closer to Pei Lang and almost coaxed, "As long as you tell this prince what secret the Shen family has and what is the purpose of you being sent to this inn. How about 2 sentences in exchange for a chance?" Chapter 772. Pei Lang coughed twice and coughed out a few piles of red blood before smiling with difficulty. "Many thanks for your highness' great kindness, but this official has no relation with the Shen family and is unable to answer your highness' question. Most likely even the heavens do not give this official this opportunity. It is such a pity." Fu Xiaoyi looked at him expressionlessly and laughed lightly after a long while. He dusted his hands and brushed away the blood that splashed on his body and said, "Mister's bones are hard. This prince admires it very much and is also very curious to see how long Mister's bones can last." He waved his hand at the people around him. "These things are not good enough for Mister. We can't use them. Let's exchange them for something better." He took a step back and was about to leave when he suddenly thought of something and said, "Even if teacher does not say, this prince can find out the Shen family's secret. But this prince would also like to ask Mister. One heard that the Shen family values friendship and righteousness, and Mister is willing to sacrifice your life. One do not know if General Shen will send someone to rescue Mister out of the fire pit?" He left with his guards. After Fu Xiaoyi left, Pei Lang fiercely spat out a large mouthful of blood. This prince who looked gentle and scheming actually had such a vicious and ruthless side. It was just that Fu Xiaoyi's last sentence that made him smile bitterly. It was not false that the Shen family valued friendship and righteousness, but the person that he was handling things for was Shan Miao. Shan Miao valued friendship and righteousness, but that was only to the Shen family. Other than her relatives and friends, others were not important in Shan Miao's eyes. As for whether or not Fu Xiaoyi would come to save him, Pei Lang felt that it should not be the case. Not to mention if Shen Miao had the ability to fish people out from the residence of Prince Hiding. It was the most secret of dungeon. At the beginning when Shan Miao wanted him to be a hidden chess piece by Fu Xiaoyi's side, she should have expected that there would be such a day. Shen Miao had long known that once Fu Xiaoyi found out, Pei Lang's ending would be extremely miserable, but she still did it. Rationally, he knew that Shen Miao would not come to save him, but Pei Lang's heart actually had a trace of faint expectation. He also could not tell what kind of feeling he had towards Shen Miao. Initially when Shen Miao used Luing to threaten him, Pei Lang's heart was somewhat disgusted as he hated the feeling of being threatened and not being able to control himself. But later, he did not know why, but he really treated himself as Shen Miao's person. He would worry for Shen Miao and do his best to be a good chess piece. Pei Lang himself was unable to understand his own way of doing things. He thought that he probably owed Shen Miao something in his previous life so that he would follow her around in this life, and almost changed his life. The guard responsible for torturing him came again. Pei Lang put aside the thought in his mind and began a new round of torture. What he did not know was that in Prince Rui's residence, Hualong and Nightingale were sitting on a tree eating melon seeds. Nightingale asked, "Boss Ji and Master Gao haven't come out yet. How long are they going to guard the tower prison?" Hualong spat out a melon seed shell and said, "I reckon that Master has completely forgotten about this matter. Master had been running around outside these past few days. How could he have the time to care about other people? I heard that the Great Liang Palace has sent another letter to urge you. Mistress probably wants to finish these matters and return to the palace as soon as possible." That's right, but Boss G has been staying in the tower prison. What about the news from the Fengxian pawn shop? Won't it delay things? Huolong rolled her eyes at Nightingale. The Fengxian pawn shop earns money and naturally the MOU army will report the information to Master. Moreover, Boss G's own concerns are all inexplicable matters, so how would there be any proper matters? Worry for nothing. When Nightingale heard this, she felt that her companion's words were reasonable and said, "That is also true. Why bother so much?" There were some things in the world that were a freak combination of factors. Sometimes a small change would cause the entire trajectory of the matter to change. In the study of the Fengxian pawnshop's Linjiang Immortal Tower, there was a thick stack of letters at the corner of the desk. Most likely no one tidied it up as it was covered with a layer of dust. And at the bottom of the stack was a letter with 3 words written on the envelope. Chapter 773. Prince Ding Residence. Because of this, the residence of Prince Ding would occasionally have some movements, not to mention the residence of the Crown Prince. Emperor Wenhui had the intention to return the favor to the Crown Prince and let the Crown Prince build a good relationship with Huang Fu Hao. Thus Huang Fu Hao could come to the Crown Prince's residence openly, and there was no need to sneak in without being discovered. But it was not something that Emperor Wenhui could manage about coming to the Crown Prince residence to discuss with him. The Crown Prince poured some wine for Huang Fu Hao and smiled. "What does Brother Huang Fu think of my words just now?" Huang Fu Hao smiled, neither agreeing nor disagreeing, and said, "Your plan is really good. Ben Gong will be the bad guy, and you'll get a good reputation, and you'll even get a beautiful woman." The Crown Prince was not angry and followed up with a smile. "A gentleman has the beauty of helping others succeed. If it is possible, Ben Gong would be happy to see 5th Shen young lady become your Qin country's Crown Prince consort. But everyone knows that this is impossible. The Qin Emperor did not have the heart to marry another country's official's daughter to his Crown Prince. The title of the Crown Princess not only represented a woman, but also represented the power of this woman's family. It would be best if she could help the Crown Prince. As a Mingqi person, Shen Miao was unable to help Huang Fu Hao. Needless to say, Shen Xian was also reluctant to let his daughter marry to the Qin country. Huang Fu Hao shook his head. "What's the rush? This Empress didn't say that I'm going to steal someone else's love. But..." He looked towards the Crown Prince. "Ben Gong is not one who likes to do good deeds all day long, moreover to use one's reputation to do good deeds. If General Shen later bear a grudge against Ben Gong, it would be difficult for Ben Gong to handle." When the Crown Prince heard this, he laughed. This Huang Fu Hao was a smart person and quickly understood the benefits. Reputation was something that did not have any use in Mingqi. Moreover, for Shan Miao to marry over, it was not a matter of doing many evil deeds. With just one sentence, Emperor Wenhui and the Crown Prince would owe Huang Fu Hao a favor, so why not? Of course, Emperor Wenhui did not know how to exchange the favor that was owed. This matter was the Crown Prince's idea, and one could see how important this marriage was in the Crown Prince's heart. "Brother Huang Fu, do you have any difficulties?" The Crown Prince asked with a smile. "It's not a big deal. It's just that I've embarrassed myself." Huang Fu Hao sighed and pretended to be worried. "Although I am the Crown Prince of Qin, even commoners have their own problems, not to mention this prince. Imperial father treats Ben Gong very well, but Ben Gong's brothers are troublesome. If there is a day when Ben Gong and my brothers have a dispute..." He looked at the Crown Prince meaningfully. "At that time, please lend Ben Gong a hand." The Crown Prince was stunned for a moment before he cursed Huang Fu Hao for being so cunning. Fighting for the throne was common in every country, especially in countries with many princes. But what Huang Fu Hao meant was that if one day there was internal strife in the Qin kingdom, and Huang Fu Hao fought for the throne, the Crown Prince must help him. How would the Crown Prince of Mingqi help the Crown Prince of the Qin country to fight for the throne? So he could only borrow troops. Huang Fu Hao really had a good plan. Huang Fu Hao saw his hesitation and laughed. "What are you hesitating for? Isn't what this consort is doing for you now the same thing?" The Crown Prince quivered and looked at Huang Fu Hao without saying anything. If this time it was successful and Shen Miao married to him, the Shen family would be tied together with his residence of the Crown Prince. With the help of the Shen family, the Crown Prince's strength would increase greatly, and it would be an important weight in the fight for the throne. Now that Huang Fuhao is helping him, wasn't it helping him to fight for the throne? In this way, it seemed that the conditions that Huang Fuhao gave were not that unacceptable. After all, he had gained more from this matter. The crown prince steeled his heart and said, "Good. This time brother Huangfu has pulled out a knife to help. In the future Bengong will definitely not stand idly by." Chapter 774. Huang Fuhao then smiled and exchanged toasts with the crown prince a few more times before saying, "But, you really want to marry Shen Miao?" He saw the crown prince's puzzled expression and explained, "Initially at the tribute banquet, Bengong saw that Shen Miao did not have a soft temperament and one feared that she would be very fierce. You are so confident that you can tame her?" "This is nothing." The crown prince waved his hands indifferently. "No matter how fierce her temperament is, she is still a female. As long as it is a female, once they marry they would put away that temper. To be honest with you, the crown prince's consort had a fierce temperament when she first came to the Eastern Palace, but until now she is still obedient to Bengong's wishes. Females, after putting in a little effort to coax them, they would be like a cat and at the end they would be docile." When Huang Fuhao heard it, he no longer said anything but his heart was somewhat contemptuous. Princess Ming'an's death was still a mystery until now, but Huang Fuhao always felt that Shen Miao was involved in this matter. Afterwards he did not know what happened between him and Fu Xiuyi, but he was used by others and now Fu Xiuyi deliberately kept a distance from him. The Shen family was not ordinary, and there seemed to be someone guiding Shen Miao from behind. The crown prince's strength was not weak, but if he met Shen Miao, he might not be able to win. It was just that all these were insignificant to Huang Fuhao. He was also happy to watch the show. Thus, after laughing a few times, he continued to drink and chat with the crown prince. At the other end, in the residence of the Minister of Land, Shen Miao actually replied to the invitation. She only said that Shen Dongling invited her over to taste the incense and Shen Miao agreed, but she still needed to bring along Luojia's Biao young lady, Luotan. Wang Bai was very happy to see Shen Miao's reply and said to Shen Dongling, "Did not say that both of you sisters do not have any interactions, did not think that she would actually agree." Shen Dongling was also somewhat surprised, but her mouth was smiling. It seems that she is thinking about not meeting for a long time. After all, there are only the two of us sisters left in the residence. She took the invitation from Wang Bai's hands and looked at it carefully. In all fairness, Shen Dongling did not think that Shen Miao would actually reply to the invitation and even agree to taste the incense. With Shen Dongling's understanding of Shen Miao had a cautious nature, and it was impossible for her to come. It did not matter if Shen Miao was present or not. The reason why she wrote the invitation to Shen Miao was because she wanted to prove to Wang Bai that she was doing her best to work for Wang Bai and hoped that Wang Bai would remember her good deeds in the future. But who would have thought that Shen Miao would actually agree? Shen Dongling's thoughts changed. The reason why Shen Miao would bring Luotan along was most likely because Luotan knew martial arts, and with someone accompanying her, she would feel more at ease. Moreover, Shen Miao would definitely bring a lot of guards with her to ensure her safety. Since Shen Miao dared to come, she must have made a foolproof plan. But Shen Dongling did not care, as her purpose was not to scheme against Shen Miao. Shen Dongling nudged Wang Bai, "Husband, since fifth sister has agreed to come, it's better to find a reason for the future. Call His Highness the Crown Prince and Huang Fuhao together." In the future, it can be said that Huang Fuhao looked at fifth younger sister's dignified beauty during the incense tasting and fell in love with her. Wouldn't the matters after be more natural? You females are indeed more thoughtful. Wang Bai smiled as he put his arm around Shen Dongling's shoulders. With a wife like this, what more can a husband ask for? Shen Dongling smiled as she teased him, but her heart was thinking of another matter. Shen Miao had always been good at scheming against others, and in the entire Shen residence, when Ren Wanyun and Shen Miao fought, Shen Dongling also saw it. At the end of the Shen family, the first household was able to preserve, and if one were to say that there was someone powerful, it would be Shen Miao and Shen Dongling. Chapter 775. Shen Dongling also wanted to see who was more powerful between her and Shen Miao. To include Shen Miao in one's own plans was much more interesting than scheming against Shen Yu. Shun Miao, who was being schemed by Shun Dongling, was currently holding her chin and playing chess with Xie Jingxing in the room. Xie Jingxing played a good game of chess and was different from Shun Miao's steady moves and planning step by step. Xie Jingxing seemed to be able to see the use of the chess pieces that she had already arranged. Wherever Shun Miao moved, Xie Jingxing would block at the corresponding place. After playing for more than an hour, Xie Jingxing had won several chess pieces from her, but the battle was still in a stalemate and it was hard to separate them. In Shun Miao's previous life, in order to be able to chat with Fu Xiuyi, she had trained hard in chess. Even if she was not number one, it would be hard to find an opponent. But under Xie Jingxing's hands, she could not kill, as Xie Jingxing was like a nemesis. Since learning chess, this was the first time that the Divine Temple wanted to take back a move. Seeing that Xie Jingxing had taken a few more of her chess pieces, Shun Miao said, tired. Do not want to play anymore. Do not want to play or cannot play. Xie Jingxing said, beg me and I will teach you. Shun Miao almost laughed at his words. It was only because Shun Miao had a good temper that he came over in the middle of the night to find someone to play chess with. Others would have long sent Xie Jingxing out. She said, thank you, but I do not want it. She did not intend to be a chess master, so what was the use of learning this? She was somewhat surprised that Xie Jingxing could play chess so well. Xie Jingxing's outstanding skills were on the battlefield, and she had never heard that he was particularly good in other areas. But thinking about it, this person was playing with the world in the palm of his hand, so what was a small chess piece? She asked, have your people and horses been arranged in 2 days' time? 2 days later was the day of tasting incense, and it was also the first time she and Xie Jingxing joined hands to scheme against others. To scheme against 2 crown princes, one fear that if this was set out it would make people feel terrified. But Shun Miao did not feel anything. She herself had given birth to a crown prince, and she really did not feel that the position of a crown prince was unattainable. Xie Jingxing was even more so. His older brother was the emperor and the crown prince was his nephew. So looking at it this way, she and Xie Jingxing felt that it was very appropriate to plot against the 2 crown princes. Do not worry, it is absolutely safe. Xie Jingxing said, your horse carriage is also arranged. You really want to go? He frowned. You do not have to go. Why not? Shun Miao said, whether to go or not has nothing to do with me, but I hope that they can make it more grand. Shun Miao gently smiled. If I were to go, they would only make the situation more realistic, but at the end they would discover that everything is wrong. Wouldn't it be more interesting? Xie Jingxing said with a smile that was not a smile. So ruthless. Ruthless? Shun Miao asked. Ruthless. He nodded, his eyes sparkling like clear water. His thin lips curled up slightly. But I like it. Shun Miao. Ever since that night, Xie Jingxing's words became more frivolous, but it was only in words. His actions were still very respectful to her. Shun Miao was not used to suddenly having someone squeeze into her life, but she had to admit that with Xie Jingxing around, many things became much easier. It seemed that the things that she had to put in a lot of effort to do could be easily solved by Xie Jingxing. But if one continued to rely on him like this, it would make one feel uneasy. Shun Miao had not learned how to trust a person, or rather trust a man. She was courageous and resourceful in other matters, but in terms of relationships between men and women, she was severely injured. So even if she were to do it again, she would still be as clumsy as a child. Even if there was someone to gently teach her, she would still be clumsy and slow. Xie Jingxing stared at her carelessly and his eyes were deep, not knowing what he was thinking about. With the chess pieces by his hand, the young female sat in a dignified and gentle manner. The lights made her look gentle and graceful, like a lotus in full bloom. And his face was handsome and his dark eyes were as deep as the night. He looked at the other for a while thoughtfully before his lips suddenly hooked up into a smile. After this matter is resolved, I will marry you, Shun Jiao Jiao. Chapter 776. 2 days later. Shun Miao woke up early and Luotan had long dressed up. Luotan had a lively temperament and was unable to sit still in the residence. Ever since that incident, Shun Qiu and Luo Ling reduced the number of times Shun Miao and Luotan, the 2 young ladies, went out. Even if he went out, he would be followed by a long line of guards. Shen Miao naturally did not care. She was not really a 16-year-old young lady and originally liked quietness, so there was no problem in staying in the residence for a while. It was Luo Ling who was not used to this. As long as he heard that he could go out of the residence to play, no matter what the reason was, he would always be in high spirits. Shen Qiu and Luo Ling exhorted a few words before letting Shan Miao bring Qi and Mo Qing along. Qi and Mo Qing were the guards with the best martial arts in the entire Shen residence, but now they had become Shen Miao's personal guards. Shen Qiu said, "There's no need to aggrieve yourself. If there's anything you're not willing to do, you can just leave. There's no need to worry." In the beginning, when Shen Qiu knew that Shen Miao was going to Shen Dongling's appointment, he was actually against it. He did not know why, but Shen Qiu did not have any good impression of Shen Dongling. Even though Shen Dongling's performance was not as obvious as Shen Qing's and Shen Yu's, and previously in the Shen residence, she lived in harmony with the first household. But Shen Qiu did not know why, but he always felt that Shen Dongling was not a good person. Such a big matter happened to the second household of the Shen family, but only Shen Dongling and Wan Yinyang were safe and sound, and there was also the matter of Shen Yu and Shen Dongling exchanging marriage. Even though he did not understand the specific reason, Shen Qiu felt that it was related to Shen Dongling. Perhaps it was because people who had been on the battlefield would have an instinct to seek advantages and avoid disadvantages. Shen Qiu was not willing to have more relations with Shen Dongling, and naturally did not want Shen Miao and Shen Dongling to be too close. For a person like Shen Dongling, if she had any other thoughts towards Shen Miao and used Shen Miao to achieve her own selfish desires, that would not be good. Shen Miao smiled. "I know. There is still Biao older sister accompanying me. Nothing will happen." Luo Tan grinned and said, "That's right. If cousin Qiu is really worried, you can come with us." Shen Qiu shook his head. "I still have matters to attend to at the military headquarters. Besides, I'm just a boor. Why would I go there to taste the incense? It'll choke my nose." Just like how the civil officials looked down on the vulgarity of the generals also couldn't understand the actions of the civil officials. Shen Qiu did not understand what was so good about this incense, not to mention that there would be people who would spend a few hundred taels of silver for 1 or 2 sticks of incense, which was really surprising. Luo Tan said, "Do not worry, older brother Qiu. I will take good care of youngest Biao sister." Shen Qiu scolded her with a stern face, "With your mediocre martial arts? I don't know who it was that almost lost their life last time and even troubled Imperial physician Gao to treat them for more than a month." Luo Tan was most afraid of people mentioning this matter, so she quickly stuck out her tongue and looked at Luo Ling for help. Luo Ling smiled gently. "No matter what, one must always be careful. After tasting the incense, come back earlier as the sky darkens early, and it is not safe at a young lady's home." When he was speaking, his eyes were staring at Shan Miao with concern. Previously, when the news that the crown prince had the intention to marry Shan Miao into the household was spread, Luo Shuiyan was busy arranging the marriage, and the first to speak was Luo Ling. There was nothing to say about Luo Ling's character and family background, and they were all from the same family, so Luo Shuiyan was most optimistic about Luo Ling. Afterwards, because of Prince Rui's words, the marriage was suppressed, and the matter of Luo Shuiyan finding a good person for Shan Miao was not as urgent as before. But Luo Ling had already expressed his feelings to Luo Shuiyan and Shen Xian, thus some matters were especially obvious. This kind of unconcealed affection, even if Shen Miao was in charge of the 6 palaces and was used to seeing facts, she was unable to turn a blind eye to it and could only slightly avoid it, save it. Many thanks to older brother Ling's concern. Luo Tan urged to leave and only said, "All right, it is better to set off quickly. It would not be good if one were to be late on the road." Chapter 777. Both of them then said their goodbyes and followed the carriage forward. In the carriage, Luo Tan said, "Biao youngest sister, what exactly are you thinking?" Shen Miao turned her head to look at her and said inexplicably, "What is thinking?" "About your marriage." Luo Tan had an appearance of being very worried for her. "Even if the crown prince's side is temporarily resting, there will be a day where you will have to marry. Previously I heard Gumu say that this year your marriage must be settled, otherwise one would not be the crown prince. Your conditions are so good that it would inevitably attract others to covet." Shen Miao did not speak. The position of the Shen family in Mingqi was indeed very subtle. If used well, it would be a sharp sword, but if used badly, it would bring disaster. But one thing was certain, the imperial family of Mingqi only had fear of the Shun family. They wanted the soldiers in Shen Xian's hands, and as for the person who would lead the troops, if there was a day where they had the troops, then they would not even try. So as the only daughter of the Shun family, the meaning of in-laws was too much. There were times when one could not control oneself, and it was not something that she could decide. Uncontrollably, Shen Miao's mind floated back to the words that Xie Jingxing said to her that day. After this matter is settled, I will marry you, Shun Jiao Jiao. He said it plainly and in such a sudden situation. It did not seem to be a promise, but it was like he was guaranteeing something. The most important thing was that when he said it, there was an unquestionable flavor, as if he could do it if he said it. But how could that be possible? One was the daughter of the Mingqi's general, and the other was Prince Rui of the Great Liang. To say it in a bad way, the Great Liang was strong, and with the identity of Prince Rui, even the princess of Mingqi would be considered to be climbing up the social ladder, not to mention her. And if she really married over, what would happen to the Shen family's position? It was really a difficult matter. Shen Miao's eyes were deep in thought when she was suddenly pushed by Luo Tan. She recovered to her senses and heard Luo Tan saying, "What are you thinking about so hard that you did not even answer my question?" Shen Miao asked, "What did you ask me?" Luo Tan looked at her helplessly and said after a long while, "I ask you, among the few people that came to propose, who do you like the most?" Shen Miao was surprised for a moment, but Luo Tan was already counting with her fingers. Older brother Ling is gentle and considerate and also knows everything. Su Mingfeng has deep feelings for you, and Su Foreign also likes you very much. Feng Zixian looks like an educated and reasonable person, and with Feng and Ning's protection, you will live well. These three people are considered young talents. Luo Tan leaned close to Shen Miao and carefully observed Shen Miao's expression. You do not like any of them? Shen Miao laughed in spite of herself. No. Luo Tan sat up straight and guided patiently. Biao, youngest sister, this is not right. Although it was good to pursue perfection in everything, it was not good to be too demanding. From what I have seen these few days, these three are already the top talents in the Ding capital. If they were placed in the Shaochun city, one feared that the young ladies would fight over the position of a concubine. All three of them agreed not to take concubines. She looked at Shen Miao for a while before shaking her head and sighing. But thinking about it, usually you do not have any special feelings towards these three people, so it is assumed that you are not tempted. I saw that it was written in the book that a tempted young lady's face would be as red as rosy clouds and the little deer would run wild. The deer in your heart has not been born yet. Shen Miao listened to Luo Tan's messy words and found it funny. What nonsense are you talking about? Why do you care so much about my matters? Could it be that you are sick? You do not say. Luo Tan covered her throat. These few days my throat is dry, and one fear that I went out at night to blow. One originally wanted to look for physician Gao to take a look at my illness, but one did not even see his shadow these few days. Luo Tan was somewhat dissatisfied. Really a physician without medical ethics. Chapter 778. Shen Miao was somewhat speechless. Not to mention that Gao Yang's real identity was an official of the Great Liang. Even in Mingqi, he was an imperial physician. Only Luo Tan would come and treat people with headaches and fever all day long. But at the other end, Shen Dongling was dressing up in the residence. Today she was dressed very simply, as if she did not put on any makeup. She was wearing a rosin-colored begonia dress, which was naturally made of the best material. But the jewelry was mainly simple jade ornaments. Xinghua looked left and right and said, "Why is Foreign dressed up so simply today? Even though Foreign is naturally beautiful, when one is out, is it not better to be more beautiful?" "What do you know?" Shen Dongling looked at the beauty in the mirror. Her looks were very good, and had the delicateness and elegance of Wan Yinyang when she was young. Even if she wore such simple clothes, she looked somewhat dainty in it. Most likely it was because she had become a married woman. There was an inexplicable charm to her. The servants in the residence would sometimes whisper behind one's back, saying that Shen Dongling looked like a concubine. Most of the matriarchs of large families had upright facial features, mellow and blessed, and looked honest. But Shen Dongling had big eyes, a sharp chin, and was as pretty as a fox. which was the typical face of a concubine. Wang Foreign and Master Wang also had some complaints about this, but Wang Bai liked it so everything else could be ignored. Shen Dongling looked at it for a moment before pulling out the jade hairpin on her head, and replaced it with a plain silver hairpin. When Xinghua saw this, she wanted to speak but hesitated. Shen Dongling said, "No need to think so much. Recently I am not playing the lead role, and dressing up too flashy would instead steal the limelight. I would not do such a silly thing. There are plenty of opportunities to compete for beauty, and this time is not a bad thing." When Xinghua heard it, she said, "Foreign's beauty is natural. There is no need to compare. It is also a first-class beauty." Shen Dongling's expression was happy after hearing what was said, but what made her even happier was not Xinghua's flattery. Today was the day that the crown prince of the Qin would fall in love at first sight with Shen Miao, and she was just a foil. The more she appeared dejected, the more it would set off Shen Miao's beauty, and the more natural this marriage would be. However, since many people were required to witness the marriage, naturally, the more the merrier. Wang Bai would also be there. In this way, he could constantly remind the crown prince that Wang Bai had contributed the most to this wonderful event. Shen Dongling stood up and took another look at the invitation. The time on the invitation was sea hour. It was still very early. She said, "I'll go out and have a meal with my husband first. After that I'll go to Yifeng Pavilion. It's just the right time." What she didn't know was that while she was having breakfast with Wang Bai, Huang Fu Hao had already left. The place to taste the incense was at the Yifeng Pavilion. The Yifeng Pavilion was a pavilion in the outskirts of the Ding capital, and was once renovated by the late emperor for the late empress. Located in the Yifeng Pavilion, one could see the deep valley below and the blue sky above. Wealthy people who were particular about elegance would often like to taste the incense at the Yifeng Pavilion. When a stick of incense was lit, a breeze would blow past and it would pierce through the blue sky, making one feel a sense of vastness. Even though it was winter now, but it just so happened that the valley below was covered in silver, so it was even more interesting to boil the snow and discuss the fragrance. Huang Fu Hao looked at the exquisite invitation and smiled. To fall in love at first sight with an official's daughter in such a beautiful place, it sounded not bad. But it would only benefit others and he would tie them up to put on a show. Huang Fu Hao's guards rushed over and said that the horse carriage was ready and could set off. Huang Fu Hao then frowned and walked towards the residence's entrance. No matter what, it was too early for the higher-ups to insist on arriving at the Yifeng Pavilion in the early hours of the morning. They even wanted him to apply for leave early in the morning. Chapter 779. It was just that no matter how dissatisfied Huang Fu Hao was, he could only comply. Yifeng Pavilion was in the outskirts and was some distance away from the Ding capital, thus one had to depart when the sky had just brightened. After reaching the outskirts, there was still a long mountain road. Luckily there was a wealthy family that specially built a road for the horse carriages, else it would be much more difficult to walk. Even so, it would take a while to reach the Yifeng Pavilion. Huang Fu Hao let his guard stay at the waist of the mountain and walked forward alone. It was not because of anything else, but the invitation specifically instructed him not to bring any guards over. The more guards there were, the more unnatural this marriage would be. Moreover, the crown prince would arrive earlier to discuss with Huang Fu Hao, thus it would be inconvenient to bring more people. Huang Fu Hao was not afraid of any accidents at all. Firstly, the crown prince would definitely have other guards placed in this place, so there was no need to worry about assassins. Secondly, the crown prince would not make a move on him as there were so many people watching. When he went out today, the people from the residence of Prince Qin would know that he was here for the crown prince's appointment. If anything were to happen to him, the crown prince would not be able to escape responsibility. Therefore, Huang Fu Hao calmly left the guards behind and went up himself. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world, and Huang Fu Hao very quickly paid the price of his own conceited decision. When Huang Fu Hao was walking up from the waist of the mountain, the crown prince was also walking towards Yifeng Pavilion with his guards from another path. Both of them happened to maintain a distance of one in front and one behind. The gap was not big, but because they were not on the same path and direction, they just missed each other. After the time it took for 2 incense sticks to burn, Huang Fu Hao reached Yifeng Pavilion. In the long pavilion of Yifeng Pavilion, there was already a person sitting there. When that person saw Huang Fu Hao, he immediately stood up. It was the Crown Prince. Huang Fu Hao was somewhat surprised as he did not expect that the Crown Prince would arrive earlier than him. As such, the time that was requested on the invitation was not that unacceptable. After all, the other party had arrived earlier. He looked left and right and said, "Why are the others not here?" Since there was going to be a love at first sight show, how would the show start if no one else was here? The Crown Princess smiled and said, "There's no rush, there's no rush. I called you here so early today because I have something to say to you in private." Huang Fu Hao felt that something was amiss, but he didn't think too much about it. His guards were stationed halfway up the mountain, and would be able to rush over in time. Seeing that the Crown Prince's guards were by his side, he knew that nothing would go wrong. He then asked, "Please speak." The Crown Prince walked to Huang Fu Hao's side and said, "Brother Huang Fu, don't you find it strange why I have called you over so early today, and why I have Brother Huang Fu's guards stay at the waist of the mountain? They probably have something important to discuss." Huang Fu Hao was a little impatient to argue with the Crown Prince. The two of them had already reached this stage. There was no need to hide anything. "Brother Huang Fu, don't you think this is like trying to silence them?" the Crown Prince asked. Huang Fu Hao laughed loudly and said, "Joking is not your style." The Crown Prince did not reply. Huang Fu Hao turned to look at him, his heart skipping a beat. The Crown Prince's expression was calm, and he did not do anything else. However, this calmness caused Huang Fu Hao to suddenly feel a deep sense of unease. He suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. But why would the Crown Prince want to silence them? Unless the Crown Prince could kill all the servants in King Qin's residence, the Crown Prince would not be able to escape responsibility. Moreover, Huang Fu Hao could not think of a reason why the Crown Prince would want to kill him. However, before he could hear the answer, he saw the Crown Prince's eyes flash. Huang Fu Hao was shocked and instinctively dodged to the side, narrowly avoiding a silver sword light that came stabbing at him from behind. Chapter 780. They were the Crown Prince's personal guards. Huang Fu Hao was shocked and afraid. He finally realized that something was wrong. The Crown Prince had brought his guards with him, but his guards were left halfway up the mountain. Huang Fu Hao couldn't figure out why the Crown Prince wanted to kill him. That was why he fell into the trap so easily. He said angrily, "What are you doing?" The Crown Prince looked at him expressionlessly. "I'm sorry." Several guards flew towards Huang Fu Hao. In his despair, Huang Fu Hao shouted, "Fu Xiuyan, you harmed me. The Qin Kingdom will not let this go. Fu Xiuyan." Fu Xiuyan was the Crown Prince's name. His voice came to an abrupt end. The sword light that passed through his chest was like a silver snake, emitting a dense white light. The blood that slowly seeped out, however, stuck to the thin ice on the ground. The Yifeng Pavilion's back was against the Grand Canyon. Huang Fu Hao's final roar had been made with all his might. Hence, his roar continued to echo down the valley, layer after layer, like ripples on the bottom of the water. On the other end, the Crown Prince and his entourage, who were on their way to the Yifeng Pavilion, suddenly stopped. They were on the dark path down the mountain and the echo did not seem to be very clear. The Crown Prince frowned and asked, "Did someone just call my name?" The guards looked at each other. They couldn't hear clearly. The Crown Prince thought for a moment and said, "I must have heard wrongly. In this world, other than the Empress, no one dared to call him by his full name. Moreover, there shouldn't be anyone in Yifeng Pavilion." The appointed time on the invitation was 6 in the morning. However, the Crown Prince had a habit of arriving early, so he went up the mountain at 7 in the morning. He should have been the first to arrive. As he thought about it, he felt that it was just a hallucination. But for some reason, the Crown Prince felt uneasy. He couldn't help but quicken his steps. When he arrived at Yifeng Pavilion, he saw a person sitting in the pavilion with his back facing him from afar. Looking at the back view, he knew it was Huang Fu Hao. The Crown Prince was surprised. He didn't expect Huang Fu Hao to arrive so early. He smiled and greeted him. "I didn't expect Brother Huang Fu to arrive so early." Before he could say morning, the Crown Prince's hand had just touched Huang Fu Hao's shoulder when Huang Fu Hao fell to the ground with a thud. The crown prince was startled and immediately reached out to pull Huang Fu Hao. With this pull, Huang Fu Hao's face was directly facing him. The crown prince cried out in alarm and immediately let go. Huang Fu Hao's eyes were round and his mouth was wide open as if he was extremely angry and shocked. However, his clothes were cold and wet because the silver robes around his chest were already dyed red with large patches of blood. What's going on? The crown prince panicked. Huang Fu Hao is dead? How is this possible? He did not have time to react to this matter when a large group of people suddenly rushed in from outside. They were all dressed as imperial bodyguards. Seeing Huang Fu Hao lying on the ground, it was unknown whether he was dead or alive. They angrily shouted at the crown prince, "Audacious, you dare to plot against His Highness the Crown Prince. Hand over your life." Without saying another word, he pounced toward the crown prince. The crown prince had also brought his own imperial bodyguards. The imperial bodyguards naturally could not let the crown prince be harmed, so they fought with the imperial bodyguards. At this time the crown prince also understood that these people who had drawn their blades against him were Huang Fu Hao's imperial bodyguards. But where did Huang Fu Hao's imperial bodyguards go? Why did they only rush out now? The crown prince still remembered to explain and shouted, "This prince has just arrived here. When I arrived here, brother Huang Fu had already been killed. This prince did not do it." One of the imperial bodyguards who seemed to be the leader said hatefully, "Nonsense. Just now, we were waiting for His Highness the Crown Prince's orders halfway up the mountain, and heard His Highness personally shout that you were the one who harmed him. We were unable to arrive immediately. Now that we have the witness and the material evidence, how can you deny it?" After saying that, he raised his sword and rushed over. Chapter 781. As the crown prince was being protected by his own guards, he was dumbfounded. Huang Fu Hao said that he was the one who harmed him? This was simply a joke. He had just arrived and Huang Fu Hao was already dead. Why would Huang Fu Hao slander him? Wait. The crown prince's heart suddenly moved. Before he reached Yifeng Pavilion, he seemed to have heard someone calling his name. It was just that he was walking on the Yin Mountain and could not hear it clearly. Could it be that it was not an illusion and was real? But why would Huang Fu Hao call out his name? The crown prince's heart was in a mess, but he still said, "Bengong just arrived here. Why would Bengong harm him?" "Ming Chi dog. You deceived our crown prince to come out and asked His Highness to leave us at the waist of the mountain in the invitation so that it would be convenient for you to do this. If this enmity is not avenged, the Qin country would have lived in vain." The crown prince was like being struck by lightning. The invitation to Huang Fu Hao was personally written by him, so that this love at first sight drama would be more natural and real. The crown prince invited Huang Fu Hao out to taste the incense, and coincidentally, Wang Bai found this incense by accident. Who knew that Wang Bai's new foreign was insensible, and invited her own younger sister out to see the novelty. The four of them unintentionally gathered together, and the rest of the matter naturally took its course. But in the invitation, there was no mention of leaving one's guards at the waist of the mountain. A guard stood in front of the crown prince and said, "Your Highness, we cannot hold on any longer. The people here do not want to live. Your Highness better leave first." The crown prince looked up at the other party. Huang Fu Hao is obviously dead and could not be revived. Those guards most likely knew that their master was dead, and even if they returned to the Qin country, they would be accused of not protecting the crown prince, and the Qin emperor would vent his anger on them. At the end there was only death. They might as well push all the blame onto the crown prince, and now they were going to perish together with the crown prince. Their moves were ruthless, but the crown prince's guards still had to protect the crown prince, and were unable to resist the enemy. The crown prince was somewhat hesitant. If he were to leave, he would not be able to resolve all the matters properly, and it was as though he had tacitly agreed to this stain. But if he did not leave, looking at the menacing momentum of the other party, the crown prince did not know if he could return safely. He clenched his teeth and looked at Huang Fu Hao on the ground before hardening his heart. Go. No one outside the Yifeng Pavilion was aware of what was happening. Shen Dongling and Wang Bai sat in the carriage. The carriage was still on the way up the mountain. There was still some distance to the foot of the mountain. Today, they were only here to be witnesses. It would be bad if they went too early. Moreover, the Shen mansion was far from Yifeng Pavilion, and if Shan Miao did not go, it would be inconvenient for the Crown Prince and Huang Fu Hao to speak if they went earlier. So Wang Bai instructed the carriage to deliberately slow down. Shen Dongling nestled in Wang Bai's embrace and said with a smile, "My husband seems to be in a good mood today." Wang Bai hugged her. "Of course I'm in a good mood after marrying a beautiful woman." Thinking that after today, his position in the Crown Prince's heart would rise again, Wang Bai couldn't help but feel very pleased. Although the minister councilor's residence was overflowing with wealth because of the illicit salt business, they were all secretly wealthy. They also had to be on guard at all times against being discovered and reported by people with ulterior motives, implicating the entire residence. People always had to look forward. In the past, Wang Bai's path had always been steady, but when he didn't lack money, power became somewhat important. He also wanted to be able to soar to the skies in one fell swoop. Wang Bai was the Crown Prince's person. Even though the Crown Prince had the orthodox title among the few princes, it was not outstanding. But now that the other princes were fighting for power, Emperor Wenhui would instead value the Crown Prince more, as he felt that the Crown Prince was easier to grasp. Emperor Wenhui had the heart to support the Crown Prince, and the Crown Prince gradually changed his style of doing things in the past, causing the people who followed the Crown Prince to gradually become ambitious. In addition, Wang Bai glanced at the beautiful woman in his embrace. After marrying Shen Dongling, he increasingly felt that even though he was steady, it was not easy to get ahead. What was the point of enduring for decades and one would be old? Shen Dongling, however, suited his taste and seemed to be able to encourage him to do things that he dared not think of in the past. Wang Bai's heart was rejoicing. Now, as long as Shen Miao's matter was successful, the Crown Prince would have more confidence in inheriting the emperor's throne. When one person achieves Tao, his chickens and dogs will also ascend to heaven. Just as he was thinking, the carriage suddenly stopped. Wang Bai lifted the curtain and asked, "What is the matter?" A guard ran over. Wang Bai recognized him, as he was the person beside the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince had sent this person to pass a few words to Wang Bai, so Wang Bai was considered familiar with him. But at this moment, that person's expression was not good, and not only that, his clothes were somewhat disheveled. He waved his hands at Wang Bai and said, "Lord Wang, something happened." Shen Dongling was listening in the carriage. Chapter 782. Things seemed to have changed beyond recognition overnight. The limitless glory that he had originally envisioned had turned into countless troubles in just a moment's time. Wang Bai and Shen Dongling never thought that Huang Fu Hao would actually be killed by the Crown Prince. The two of them had no idea what had happened. The Crown Prince's bodyguard had been trying his best to emphasize that the Crown Prince had not done anything to Huang Fu Hao. By the time the Crown Prince reached the Yifeng Pavilion, Huang Fu Hao was already dead. But Huang Fu Hao's guards seemed to believe it without a doubt. The misunderstanding had already been created, not to mention it was a bloody misunderstanding. Therefore, what followed was a shocking accusation. Shen Dongling tried her best to maintain a calm expression on her face as she comforted Wang Bai. There must be some misunderstanding. As long as the misunderstanding is resolved, everything will be fine. However, her heart was sinking into the abyss. From an outsider's point of view, it was Wang Bai who found the good incense and gave it to the Crown Prince, and the Crown Prince used the flower to present the Buddha to Huang Fu Hao, who invited Huang Fu Hao to taste the incense together. Wang Bai was the source of the disaster. Even if this matter had nothing to do with Wang Bai, it was impossible for Wang Bai to leave unscathed due to the fury of the imperial family. Furthermore, even if the Crown Prince was lucky enough to prove his innocence in the end, Wang Bai was the one who came up with the plan to taste the incense. Because of Wang Bai's plan, Huang Fu Hao was dead, and the Qin kingdom would not let the matter rest. The Crown Prince's ally was also dead. So how could the Crown Prince not vent his anger on Wang Bai? Therefore, looking left and right, Wang Bai, the scapegoat, could not escape. Wang Bai clearly thought of this too, his expression ugly to the extreme. In the end, he was more composed than Shen Dongling and only said, "Let's go back first and visit the Crown Prince's residence to find out what exactly happened. How did Huang Fu Hao die just like that? Who killed him? Why did Huang Fu Hao call out the Crown Prince's name again?" The intricacies of this matter were truly incomprehensible. No matter what, he had to figure out what was going on first before he could come up with a countermeasure. The coachman turned the horse around and ran in the direction of the city. Shin Dongling seemed to suddenly think of something and asked, "Why haven't I seen fifth sister?" Wang Bai was taken aback. One must know that this plan was used by the crown prince because of Shen Miao. This was because Shin Dongling had calculated the time and arrived at Yifeng Pavilion at about the same time as Shen Miao. This way they could chat casually and show their deep sisterhood. They stopped here for a while and it was reasonable to say that Shin Miao and the rest should also be here. But on the mountain road in the outskirts one could see clearly in front of them, and there were no other carriages ahead or behind. Why did Shin Miao not come? Wang Bai only knew that Shin Miao was Shin Dongling's third household's Tang younger sister, and because Shin Xian held great power in his hands, he did not know anything about Shen Miao's character. Shen Dongling, however, had seen the methods that Shen Miao used to deal with the second and third household and her heart sank. If Shen Miao did not come, how could it be such a coincidence? Could it be that Shen Miao had long known that something would happen today? There was no one in the world who had the ability to predict the future. Could it be that this matter was related to Shen Miao? No matter how powerful she was, how could she kill the crown prince of the Qin kingdom so easily? When Wang Bai heard Shin Dongling's words, he misunderstood Shin Dongling's meaning and said, "That's right. If fifth Shin young lady was also here, things would most likely be smoother." Wang Bai thought that with one more person, he would be able to share more of the blame. If Shen Miao was here on account of Shin Xian, Emperor Wenhui would not make things too difficult for him, but if he were to punish him alone, it would appear to be biased. In order to show fairness, Shen Miao's presence would save Wang Bai a lot of things. He said, "Let us return to the residence first. Perhaps fifth Shin young lady has already returned. Let's take a look at the crown prince's side first." Chapter 783. Shen Dongling nodded her head but smiled bitterly in her heart. She did not know why, but she felt that Shen Miao would not have already returned, and most likely Shen Miao did not intend to come to Yifeng Pavilion from the start. Shen Miao. This opponent was more terrifying than she thought. At the other end on the streets, Luo Tan was sitting in the horse carriage and wiped the sweat on her forehead. What to do now? One delay and it has been delayed for so long. If one rushed to Yifeng Pavilion now, one fear that it is already too late. Just now when their Shun family's horse carriage was traveling in a bustling area of the city, they accidentally bumped into an old woman. That old woman immediately fainted. The Shun family was not a small family in the Ding capital and Shin Xian was a respected hero, so naturally one had to cherish one's feathers. Shen Miao and Luo Tan did not have any reason to leave the old woman alone. They instructed the guards to send the old woman to the nearest medical hall, and personally watched the doctor take the old woman's pulse, and said that she was fine until the old woman woke up. Their action naturally won the approval of many commoners as they felt that young ladies from the general residence did not have any arrogance and instead were considerate of the commoners, which was a rare character. It was true that they had earned praises, but it also delayed a lot of time. If they were to rush to Yifeng Pavilion now, it would be noon by the time they arrived. Shen Miao pondered for a moment before saying, "Not going." Huh. Luo Tan was still thinking about how to solve this problem when she heard Shen Miao say that and could not help but be surprised. Why not going? Doesn't Biao youngest sister hate people who go back on their words? Shen Miao smiled. One must pay attention to the time and place when tasting the incense. The best time in Yifeng Pavilion is in the morning when the air is the freshest, and one would naturally feel refreshed when tasting the incense at noon or in the afternoon. The heaven and earth are chaotic, and it is not easy to taste the fragrance. One cannot let others wait for us. This would not be beautiful. She stretched out her hand to call Mo Qing over, and let him send a messenger pigeon to Yifeng Pavilion. She and Luo Tan would not be able to go due to the delay. Even though Luo Tan had some regrets, she originally did not have any interest in tasting the incense. It was rare for her to come out for a stroll, so she wanted to pull Shen Miao along. Shen Miao saw that it was still early, and with Qi and the rest of the guards by her side, there was no harm in strolling around, so she agreed. Who knew that Luo Tan was in high spirits, and after this stroll, it was already close to evening when they returned to the Shan residence. Their carriage had just arrived at the entrance of the mansion when the manservant in front of the door smiled and said, "It's good that Miss has returned. Madam and Master have just returned as well. Just in time for dinner." Luotan smiled as she took Shen Miao's hand and stepped through the door. Who knew that when they entered the main hall, Luo Shuiyan was talking to Shen Exine, and when she saw Shan Miao and Luotan returning, she was surprised for a moment before giving a big sigh of relief. "Jiao, Tanner, where did you all go?" "Today, Lady Wang of the Minister Counselor's residence invited us to Yifeng Pavilion to taste some incense. On the way there, the carriage collided with an old woman. My cousin and I were busy taking care of the old woman and were delayed. Hence we decided to excuse ourselves and not go. My cousin and I were just strolling around." "Father, Mother, did something happen?" Shen Miao said that Shen Dongling was the Lady Wang of the Minister Counselor's residence, and it was obvious that she was deliberately drawing a clear line with Shen Dongling. Luo Shuiyan did not notice this and only took a deep breath. "It scared me to death. Today the Crown Prince of Qin was assassinated at Yifeng Pavilion, and all the related people were arrested and sent to the prison for interrogation. That Wang Bai said that you were also present, but no one saw it. Your father and I rushed back, and when we saw that you were not around, we thought that something happened." Chapter 784. Luotan was surprised for a moment. "Assassinated?" she said. "Who would have such guts to dare to assassinate the Crown Prince of the Qin country in broad daylight? Are the martial arts of the Crown Prince of the Qin country's guards that bad? How could they not even protect their master's life?" Different from Luotan's surprised face, Shen Miao was very calm as she said, "Do not worry. Biao older sister and I did not go to Yifeng Pavilion. Today when we collided with that old woman, many commoners on the streets saw it, and to avoid trouble, we even reported our names. Those commoners can testify for us that we were busy taking care of that old woman, so how would we have the time to go to Yifeng Pavilion? It would not be fake under the watchful eyes of everyone, and Shen Miao did not know how to split herself, so how could she appear at Yifeng Pavilion when she was in the marketplace?" Shen Exen snorted coldly, and there was some anger in his expression. "Wang Bai has such big guts to dare to splash dirty water on my Shen family. It seems that the Wang family wants to drag us into the water." Luo Shuiyan also understood and said hatefully, "Shen Dongling is still our relative, but one did not think that she would have such vicious thoughts. How is it reasonable to scheme against one's own family?" Shen Miao sneered. "In the second and third household of the Shen family, when was there anyone who treated us sincerely?" Luo Shuiyan and Shen Exine were silent. Luotan felt that the atmosphere was somewhat heavy and smiled as she interrupted. "Speaking of which, it is fortunate that Biao younger sister and I had good luck today. If it was not that we collided with that old woman, one feared that we would really go to Yifeng Pavilion to taste the incense. Since Huangfu Hao was attacked by an assassin and even his guards were not saved, the assassin's martial arts must be very high. If Biao younger sister and I were to go, we might also be implicated. Speaking of which, we should thank that old woman." Shen Miao laughed in spite of herself and was about to say something when she heard Luotan muttering, "But previously in the invitation that was given to us, there was no mention of the Crown Prince of the Qin country going to taste the incense. Why did the Crown Prince of the Qin country go to taste the incense? Was there anyone else there? If there was, were there any casualties?" Before anyone could answer Luotan's questions, one saw two travel-worn people walking in. It was Shen Qiu and Luoling. Luotan turned around and happened to bump into them. She couldn't help but exclaim, "Cousin Qiu, Brother Ling, what's wrong?" Shen Qiu's and Luoling's clothes were somewhat disheveled, and not only that, there were some bloodstains on their faces, making them look extremely wretched. Luo Shuiyan and Shen Exine were also shocked. Luo Shuiyan quickly stepped forward and anxiously looked at the two of them. "What happened?" Shen Qiu quickly explained, "Don't worry, it's not my blood, it's someone else's." Only then did Luo Shuiyan relax. But before she could relax, she heard Luotan ask, "Cousin Qiu, are you and Brother Ling going to catch the assassin who tried to assassinate the Crown Prince of Qin today? Are those assassins very powerful and difficult to deal with? You guys don't look like you have it easy." Shen Exine frowned and asked, "Shen Qiu, is it like this?" Shen Qiu and Luoling looked at each other, and both of their gazes were somewhat strange. After a moment, Shen Qiu let all the servants in the main hall leave and looked at Luotan and Shen Miao thoughtfully. Shun Miao smiled. Me and older Biao sister will not say it out. Eldest brother can just say whatever it is. Luotan quickly raised her hands to indicate that she would not reveal anything at all. Seeing Shanqiu's serious look, Shin Xian and Luo Shuiyan were somewhat suspicious. Luo Ling nodded his head to Shanqiu and Shanqiu sighed before speaking. Today the troops and horses of the Ministry of War's garrison had gone to stop people, but it was not the assassins who tried to assassinate Huangfu Hao but Huangfu Hao's guards. Guards? Luo Shuiyan frowned. Could it be that they want an explanation from Ming Qi and have already made a big fuss? Luo Shuiyan did not have any good impression of the Qin people. One did not know if it was because the Qin country was established for the shortest period of time among the three countries and did not have much history. From the imperial family to the commoners, everyone had an arrogant look. Even if the Qin country's power was slightly stronger than Ming Qi, but the arrogance that they displayed in front of Ming Qi was really an eyesore. Chapter 785. That is also not the case. Shun Qiu hesitated for a moment before saying, Huangfu Hao's guards said that the one who assassinated Huangfu Hao was the crown prince, and now they are heading to the eastern palace to kill the crown prince to avenge Huangfu Hao. The crown prince killed Huangfu Hao? Shin Xian suddenly stood up. Impossible. Not to mention the crown prince's thin and weak body. Now that the Ming Qi was trying to build a relationship with the Qin country to deal with the Great Liang, how could they do such a self-destructive thing? To kill Huangfu Hao would only provoke the Qin country's rage, and not to mention the collapse of the alliance, it would also add one more enemy. There was no doubt that it was one disaster after another. The crown prince was not a fool, so why would he do such a thankless thing? I also thought that it was impossible. Shun Qiu was somewhat puzzled, but those guards said that they heard Huangfu Hao shouting the crown prince's name, and loudly said that the crown prince was the murderer. Since they were Huangfu Hao's guards, there was no reason for them to frame others for letting the real murderer go. Luo Shuiyan asked, Huangfu Hao's guards were not with Huangfu Hao? Why did they say that they heard it? This is where the doubt lies. Luo Ling continued, according to Huangfu Hao's guards, it was the crown prince who sent the invitation to Huangfu Hao to taste the incense. Huangfu Hao's guards recalled that the crown prince said that he had something important to discuss with Huangfu Hao, and wanted Huangfu Hao's guards to stay at the mountainside, and let Huangfu Hao go alone. But the crown prince said that he did not mention it in the invitation that he sent to Huangfu Hao. The officials were ordered to search for the crown prince's invitation, but no one knew where the invitation was thrown by Huangfu Hao. Now that the dead can no longer testify, both sides are sticking to their own version of events. It is very worrying. Luotan muttered. The crown prince asked Huangfu Hao to taste the incense, but why was the invitation that Wang Furen gave to me and Biao youngest sister not mention the two of them? Everyone in the room was startled. They only paid attention to the bad account between the crown prince and Huangfu Hao, but Shen Miao's end was neglected. At this moment when Luotan mentioned it, they remembered. Yes, the crown prince and Huangfu Hao were to taste the incense, so why did they bring Shen Miao and Luotan along? There was no need to talk about Luotan as she had no relation with the people in the Ding capital, but Shen Miao was Shin Xian's daughter. When Shen Dongling sent the invitation, it was impossible that she did not know that the crown prince and Huangfu would come. Shen Miao forgot, or was it? If he did it on purpose, why would he do it on purpose? Was he planning something? Luo Ling said no. How? Luo Shuiyan said no. I have to ask Shen Dongling clearly. Mother, Shun Qiu stopped her. Shen Dongling and Wang Bai are already in prison and one cannot rush to see them at this time. Otherwise it would not be good if one were to be thought to have any relationship with her. Two crown princes went to taste the incense and one died, and the other inexplicably became the murderer. When Emperor Wenhui knew about it, he was so angry that he almost fell down. What was this? On one hand, it was to temporarily quell the anger of the Qin country, and to capture a few people to let them see that Ming Qi was handling matters impartially. On the other hand, Emperor Wenhui had nowhere to vent his anger on. Since it was Wang Bai and his wife who suggested to taste the incense, it was equivalent to being the initiator. The anger of the Son of Heaven would never be explained. Wang Bai was still sitting in a happy dream, but it was ruthlessly shattered. Not only that, no one dared to say if he could keep his life this time. Everyone had different expressions, but only Shen Miao was as calm as usual. She listened to all these things as if it had nothing to do with her. Of course it was indeed not related. She said, "This has nothing to do with us. Just wait and see how the outside handles it." Chapter 786. Shen Qiu noticed Shen Miao's expression and asked, "Younger sister, why are you not surprised that Huang Fu Hao was assassinated? And also not surprised that it was the crown prince who killed Huang Fu Hao?" Shen Miao gently smiled. What is there to be surprised about? Since it was like what those people said, the crown prince and Huang Fu Hao had a private matter to discuss, and in the process of the discussion, if there was no consensus or any intense disagreement, it was highly possible that the crown prince would kill an impulse. It is not that there were no such cases in the Mingqi before, so why make a fuss over nothing? Shen Qiu was speechless. Shen Miao's words made everyone in the room unable to remain calm. What Shen Miao said was true, but what kind of disagreement would be so intense that one would kill? Not to mention that the other party was the crown prince of a country. Even if Emperor Wenhui was so angry that he lost his rationality, it was not likely that he would be so straightforward to silence the witness. Shen Xian and Luo Shuiyan frowned. Shen Miao did not need to think so much, but they were officials in the court, and every small action in the court could possibly affect their future life. Moreover, this time Huang Fu Hao died in the Mingqi, and the crime would fall on the crown prince of the Mingqi. One think that those guards had already sent people back to pass the message that after the emperor of the Qin country knew that a pair of children died in the Mingqi, who would bear the thunderous rage? And it would be difficult for the Mingqi and the Qin country to form an alliance to recover. At this time it was unknown what the Great Liang would do. This night, because of this sudden matter, even the atmosphere in the Shen mansion was solemn. However, it was not because they sympathized with Huang Fu Hao or the crown prince, but because they were worried about the possible changes in the future. When Xie Jingxing came over to look for Shen Miao was standing in front of the window in a daze. Huang Fu Hao died just like that, and in the previous lifetime, Huang Fu Hao and Princess Mingyan became a nightmare that she could not get rid of for the 5 years that she went to the Qin country as a hostage. Princess Mingyan was arrogant and despotic, but Huang Fu Hao liked to lead everyone to torture him. He was the crown prince of the Qin country, and once Huang Fu Hao tortured someone, others would follow suit. Actually, speaking of which, there was no enmity between Shen Miao, Huang Fu Hao and Princess Mingyan, but because of such malicious insults, it finally accumulated resentment. Different from others, Shen Miao did not think of letting Huang Fu Hao and Princess Mingyan pay with their lives, because they were not the ones who harmed the Shen family the most in the previous lifetime. At most, these people would kick her when she was down for a period of time. If it was not that they schemed against her in this lifetime, Shen Miao would not even bother about these two people. Now that the person was gone, Shen Miao was somewhat at a loss. Since his rebirth, he had always adhered to the path of vengeance and to protect the Shen family from repeating the mistakes of his previous life. But as long as the Fu family was still alive, they would never let the Shen family off. Her enemies were very strong from the start, and it was not enough to just have the heart to stake everything on one throw. Shen Miao would sometimes doubt if she could walk to the end. The figure that came down from the tree waved his hands in front of Shen Miao. Shen Miao recovered to her senses, and what entered her eyes was Xie Jingxing's playful smile. He said, "Thinking of me to such an extent?" Shen Miao wanted to close the window with a pop sound, but Xie Jingxing caught it quickly and took the opportunity to jump into the room. With one hand on Shen Miao's shoulder, he did not let her move, and the other hand closed the window. "Be careful not to freeze, silly." Songyang, who was standing at the corner of the wall outside. Shen Miao pulled Xie Jingxing's hand away and sat down at the table in the room before asking, "How is the handling?" "No problem." Xie Jingxing sat down and indicated Shen Miao to pour tea for him. Shen Miao held her breath as she poured tea for him and reluctantly pushed the teacup over and asked, "Are you sure that the Qin country's people would not find out?" Chapter 787. I can't. Xie Jingxing smiled. Not everyone is as smart as you and I. Shen Miao rolled her eyes when he praised others, but he did not forget to praise her as well. Looking at the purple-clothed young man who was leisurely drinking tea, his heart was slightly stirred. Today's matter was planned by her and Xie Jingxing. There were many talented people under Xie Jingxing. There were those who could disguise themselves well. There were also those who were outstanding in imitating other people's vocalizations, and there were even some who could write exactly the same words with just one look. Huang Fu Hao and Fu Xiaoyan only changed the invitation to Huang Fu Hao, and even the time was changed. Huang Fu Hao and Fu Xiaoyan ascended the mountain one after the other. After ascending the mountain, Xie Jingxing's men would disguise themselves as the crown prince, and the bodyguard beside the crown prince would lower his head and speak with the crown prince's tone. Even though Huang Fu Hao and the crown prince were familiar with each other, it wasn't to the point of being completely devoted to each other. They hadn't stuck together since they were young, so it was impossible for him to realize that the person opposite him had already substituted for the peach. What followed was a series of misunderstandings. From an outsider's point of view, the crown prince had killed Huang Fu Hao. Regardless of the reason, regardless of the misunderstanding, this was an unchangeable fact. The Qin country would not take this lying down. Not to mention an alliance, one fear that they would become enemies with the Ming Qi. Not to mention that the alliance was broken. In order to appease the anger of the Qin emperor, Emperor Wen Hui finally sacrificed others, and it was inevitable that the crown prince would be sacrificed. Why are you so sure that the emperor will sacrifice the crown prince? Xie Jingxing raised his eyebrows and asked. That is his own son. Shen Miao gently smiled. Do you remember my second shoe? I remember. Back then, Xin Yuan was also his biological son. When Xin Yuan got into trouble, he was busy trying to clear his name. The emperor was also an ordinary person, and the kinship of the royal family was even more faint. For the sake of the righteousness of the world, what did it matter to put righteousness before family? Even if one knew that the crown prince was wrongly accused, the emperor would only swallow this bitter fruit. Shen Miao said it with ridicule, but there was a faint killing intent in the corner of her eyes. Xie Jingxing stared at her thoughtfully. Shen Miao always had a deep-rooted hatred towards the Fu family. Even if she tried her best to hide it, there would always be a moment when she couldn't hide it. These moments were captured by Xie Jingxing. Although he was suspicious, he did not interrogate. He joked, "You seem to understand the royal family very well. You speak as if you have personally experienced it." Shen Miao's eyes drooped. Wasn't it because she had personally experienced it? After marrying to Fu Xiaoyi fought for the throne and many of his brothers died. Out of the 9 princes, some were dead, some were crippled, and some were missing. Those who barely managed to keep their lives were finally removed by some groundless charges after Fu Xiaoyi ascended to the throne. It was the nature of the Fu family to not leave any loose ends. Even between Fu Xiaoyi and Emperor Wen Hui, was it not a fight and intrigue? Emperor Wen Hui was wary of his son usurping the throne, and Fu Xiaoyi hoped for his father's early death. There was also consort Su Xian, consort Dongshu the Empress. In the palace, whoever cared about family was a fool. It was a pity that she didn't understand in her previous life. She always thought that people would always have a heart. But he had forgotten that if Fu Xiaoyi could lay his hands on his own brother and father, then naturally he could lay his hands on his own son. When Shen Miao was in the palace, the love and hate that she had when she was a young girl, at the end had almost disappeared. The remaining feelings towards Fu Xiaoyi were all built on the fact that he was Wan Yu and Fu Ming's father. Shen Miao thought that there was no father that would not love his own children. However, Fu Xiaoyi finally sent his own daughter to the Xiongnu for marriage and forced his own son to a dead end. This debt, she would definitely get it back personally. Seeing the changes in Shen Miao's eyes and the traces of pain, Xie Jingxing's brows wrinkled. He did not know where did he touch Shen Miao's sore spot. He hesitated for a moment and slowed down his voice. "If you have any difficulties, you can tell me and I will solve it for you." Shen Miao looked up at him. "Speak as if you can do it." But her heart was like a mirror that Xie Jingxing could indeed do it. Killing 2 crown princes, he said he would kill them. The crown prince and Emperor Wen Hui obviously knew that they were being schemed against, but did not even have the chance to refute. Only Xie Jingxing would be able to do such a choking and helpless method. He had great guts and ability that reached the heavens, but he was so cunning that one would not be able to grab hold of his weakness, as if there was nothing in this world that he could not do. It would be good if she met him in her previous life. Shen Miao's heart suddenly came up with such a thought. But she only said, "If you were to change the face of the country, would you be able to do it?" When the purple-clad youth who was holding the jade teacup heard it, he smiled. His appearance was handsome and beautiful, the crabapple branches were filled with the feeling of spring, and the nobility and elegance were revealed from his bones. Even though his gaze was as sharp as a knife, his tone was slightly teasing. It is only a toppling of the imperial power. If you want it, it is all yours. Chapter 788. This little movement of Ming-Chi was ultimately not hidden from the people of the world. Huangfu Hao died in the crown prince's hands, and one did not know how it started to spread in the marketplace. Emperor Wenhui had the intention to put Huangfu Hao's guards under house arrest, but now the situation had become out of hand, and if it was not controlled, one feared that there would be chaos. But how would the people in the residence of Prince Qin sit still and await death? When the news reached the ears of the Qin country's emperor, in just a short few days, there were people who rushed back to send a message, swearing to Emperor Wenhui to give an explanation or else they would send troops to flatten Ming-Chi. If it was the previous Qin country, Ming-Chi would naturally be able to contend with it, but now there was the great Liang with unknown ambitions lurking at the side like a tiger eyeing its prey. If there was another Qin country, then Ming-Chi would really be finished. With conclusive evidence, Emperor Wenhui was helpless and could only lock the crown prince in prison. Even though he specially let people take care of him, but at the end it was still a step to sacrifice the rook to protect the general. So the older Emperor Wenhui got, the decisiveness he had when he was younger was finally worn away. Not to mention how this method would make other sons think, even if the officials saw it, they would feel bitterly disappointed. In order to protect himself, even though he knew that the crown prince's assassination of Huangfu Hao was fishy, he still locked the crown prince in prison. In fact, one could not blame Emperor Wenhui. The reason why he locked the crown prince in prison, other than to show an attitude to the Qin country's emperor and to temporarily quell the emperor's anger, was for the sake of the crown prince's safety. Those Huangfu Hao's guards were eyeing the crown prince like a tiger eyeing its prey, and wholeheartedly wanted to take revenge for Huangfu Hao. If the crown prince was not careful one day, it was not impossible that he would die in the hands of those guards. Now that the crown prince was a prisoner and there were so many people guarding the prison, there would not be any incidents. Unfortunately, no one understood Emperor Wenhui's thoughts, and because of his actions, even the Empress could not sit still. When the Empress entered the Yangxian palace, she angrily questioned, "Your Majesty obviously know that the crown prince was wronged, so why did you lock him up? Your Majesty's actions, did you not think about how the officials would look at you in the future?" Emperor Wenhui frowned. He did not like the feeling of being questioned and said, "Jean have my own ideas." Emperor Wenhui still had some feelings for the Empress as the Empress was his legal wife. When the late emperor was still alive, the fight for the throne was as fierce as it was now. If it was not for the support of the Empress maiden family, Emperor Wenhui would not have reached this step today. Now that the power of the Empress maiden family had been deliberately taken away by Emperor Wenhui, it was not possible for the external relatives to monopolize power. Thus Emperor Wenhui was willing to give some face to the Empress. Moreover, the Empress was the crown prince's birth mother. In private, the Empress was indeed a good Empress. She was not jealous and managed the inner palace well. "I beg your Majesty to retract your order," the Empress said. "The crown prince will have to face the court officials in the future. Your Majesty's actions will cause the people to misunderstand." If it was in the past, the Empress would never refute Emperor Wenhui's decisions, but as a mother, she was always exceptionally sensitive towards her son's matters. The Empress would not allow the crown prince's future to have any mistakes. Not even a drop of dirty water could be stained. Moreover, this time it was not an ordinary mistake. Once the crime of murdering the crown prince of the Qin country was proven, one feared that it would be difficult for Fu Xiuyan to keep his life. Even though the Empress did not interfere in the court's affairs, it did not mean that she knew nothing about the court's affairs. Once there were signs of danger, she would definitely nip it in the bud. Emperor Wenhui was badly battered by this matter for the past few days, and his heart was extremely gloomy. Unfortunately, the Empress came at this time, so he said impatiently, "Jean do not need you to tell me what to do." Chapter 789. The Empress' heart jumped. After being husband and wife with Emperor Wenhui for so many years, she naturally knew what kind of temperament Emperor Wenhui had. She immediately relaxed her expression and changed her questioning look as she softly said, "This concubine knows that your Majesty's heart is troubled. Just now this concubine was impulsive. This concubine is also worried about the Crown Prince. Remember that when the Crown Prince was young, the Grand Tutor could not teach him, and it was your Majesty who personally taught the Crown Prince. In the Crown Prince's heart, your Majesty is the wisest. Now this concubine and your Majesty understand that this matter has nothing to do with the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince's temperament is gentle and honest, so how would he kill someone? Even if he were to kill someone, he would not be so stupid as to be an assassin in broad daylight. Your Majesty, the Crown Prince is innocent. You are the Crown Prince's father. Could it be that you want to watch the Crown Prince bear the infamy because of a groundless accusation?" These conciliatory words had some effect as Emperor Wenhui's expression also eased up. Among the 9 princes, the one that Emperor Wenhui wanted to support the most was the Crown Prince, so naturally he was not willing for the Crown Prince to die here. Just as he was about to speak, he heard a palace maid reporting from outside, "Your Majesty, Consort Xian has arrived." The Empress' expression was as usual, but the hands in her sleeves were clenched tightly. Among the concubines in the palace, Consort Su Xian was the most arrogant as she had given birth to 2 princes, Prince Zhou and Prince Jing. Normally she was pampered and had a beautiful appearance. Even though she acted arrogantly, she held Emperor Wenhui's heart tightly. And the Empress was not ignorant of the ambitions of the 2 brothers, Prince Zhou and Prince Jing. Consort Su Xian naturally hoped that her sons would be able to sit in that position, so once something happened to the Crown Prince, Consort Su Xian would not let go of this opportunity to throw stones down the well. One saw Consort Su Xian gracefully walking in. Even though she had given birth to 2 sons, Consort Su Xian's appearance did not show any signs of aging. One heard that she used goat's milk to bathe daily and her skin was smooth and firm. Compared to the immaturity of a young female, she had the mature charm of a married woman. There were 3,000 beauties in the palace and Consort Su Xian's appearance indeed made others envious. It was no wonder that Emperor Wenhui knew that Consort Su Xian was arrogant and domineering, but still pampered her. When Consort Su Xian came in, she greeted Emperor Wenhui and the Empress. She then smiled and said, "Your Majesty has been in a bad mood recently, so I had the pastry chef make some purple snowbird's nest for your Majesty to taste. I didn't expect you to be here too." The Empress smiled faintly and did not want to speak more with her. But how could Consort Xian let go of this opportunity? She looked at the Empress and said, "Sister, you didn't come to His Majesty today because of the Crown Prince, did you?" Emperor Wenhui did not say anything when the Empress raised her eyebrows and said angrily, "Younger sister is also meddling too much." Consort Su Xian covered her mouth and laughed. She looked at the silent Emperor Wenhui and then looked at the Empress before speaking unhurriedly. Originally younger sister should not speak about these matters. But His Majesty is already worried about this. Why doesn't elder sister understand His Majesty and disturb His Majesty at this critical moment? As she had the palace servant put down the basket in her hand, she said, "The matter of the Crown Prince is not only related to one person's life. The Crown Prince of the Qin Kingdom died here for no reason. On that day, only the Crown Prince and the Crown Prince of the Qin Kingdom were present. Younger sister naturally believes that the Crown Prince would not do such a crazy thing. Can you show evidence? If we can't produce evidence, how can we convince the public? Moreover, the Qin country's people are watching so closely. If His Majesty heard older sister's words and released the Crown Prince, one do not know how big of a wave would be set off at the Qin country's end. Older sister cannot only think of herself and the Crown Prince, but also think of the common people." Consort Su Xian was considerate, but it made the Empress' face change. "Shut up," the Empress said angrily. Consort Su Xian pretended to be frightened and retreated a little before looking at Emperor Wenhui with grievance. "Your Majesty, this consort has good intentions to persuade older sister, but older sister does not appreciate it. This consort is really wrong to death." Chapter 790. Emperor Wenhui's head swelled up, and no one wanted to see it at this moment. How would he not know that Consort Su Xian's words were to sow discord and not let the Crown Prince feel better? But Emperor Wenhui had no way to deny that what Consort Su Xian said was the truth. The matter of the Crown Prince is not only related to the Crown Prince, but also the attitude of the Qin Kingdom. This time Ming Qi could not tolerate any mistakes. If this matter was not handled well, no one could say what kind of disaster it would bring to Ming Qi in the future. Thinking of this, Emperor Wenhui felt annoyed when he thought of the Crown Prince and became impatient with the Empress. He said to the Empress and consort Su Xian, "Withdraw, Jean wants to be alone." The Empress waited with great difficulty for Emperor Wenhui to loosen his mouth, but did not want to be disturbed by consort Su Xian, and all the previous efforts would be wasted. Her heart was not reconciled, but before she could speak, consort Su Xian spoke first. "Since your majesty is not willing to be disturbed, then these officials and concubines will withdraw first. Your majesty, please take care of your dragon body. Don't be too distressed because of this." Emperor Wenhui waved his hands without raising his head. No matter how unwilling the Empress was, she could only leave with consort Su Xian. After leaving Yangxin Palace Hall, the Empress stopped and looked at consort Su Xian with a sneer. "I know what you are thinking in your heart. However, your son will never be able to replace my son." Consort Su Xianfei smiled and said, "Sister's words are too polite. The Crown Prince was a noble person, and his younger sister wished him well with all her heart. They are brothers who respect each other. There is no need to talk about replacing each other." She giggled again, enjoying the Empress' seemingly irritated expression, and said, "The one Mimi has always wanted to replace is Jiejia." Finishing, she stroked a pearl flower by the side of her hair, and walked away alluringly. Only the Empress was left standing on the spot, gritting her teeth in anger. The Empress and consort Su Xian entered Yangxin Palace one after another, and the news quickly spread to the ears of others. Consort Dongshu sat on the couch and listened to the maid playing the qin. What he played were mountains and rivers, gurgling springs and towering mountains. It was an excellent scene. She didn't like to compete with outsiders and believed in Buddhism. When she didn't go to the temple, she would stay in her side chamber to do embroidery and listen to music. She didn't look like a concubine, but more like an outsider. Out of the 4 concubines, she was the most neglected one. It made people wonder how she managed to become one of the 4 concubines. And to her right was a man wearing a jade-colored brocade robe. He had a faint smile on his face as he tilted his head to listen, as if he had been immersed in the zither music for a long time. At the end of the song, the maid hugged the zither and thanked the favor. Consort Dongshu waved her hand and her personal palace maid brought the reward and sent the maid away. Everyone in the side chamber retreated out. Fu Xiui smiled. "Fu Fei's mood today is exceptionally happy." The Empress could not sit still. Consort Dongshu smiled. She personally went to Yangxian Palace to plead for the Crown Prince, and Consort Xian followed. Now that Consort Xian and the Empress are about to shed all pretense of cordiality, it is naturally worth celebrating. Fu Xiui laughed along. The Crown Prince is in dire straits and Consort Xian naturally would not let go of this opportunity. If Prince Zhou and Prince Jing want to replace the Crown Prince, Consort Xian will definitely help in the inner palace. Unfortunately, it is not a good idea. Consort Dongshu picked up the tea and took a sip, but if the sandpiper and clam do not fight, how can the fisherman benefit? Both mother and son laughed at the same time. Fu Xiuyi's facial features were more similar to Consort Dongshu's. Usually he looked cold, but when he laughed, it was soft and gentle, making one unable to be wary at all. Consort Dongshu said, "How have you been recently?" Fu Xiui smiled, discovered some interesting secrets and is currently investigating. One think that there will be a result in a short while. Consort Dongshu looked at him reproachfully. "You have always had your own ideas, so I will not worry about these matters. Speaking of which, it is time for you to get married. You are not young, and if you drag on, it would be inevitable that others would use you as a raft. Consort Xian and the rest can't wait for you to marry a powerless female as a Wang Fei." As Consort Dongshu spoke, she sighed and said, "Originally that Shun Miao was in love with you, and one thought that if she continued to be in love with you and finally let her enter the door, you would have the help of the Shun family. One did not think that the affairs of the world are fickle. Not to mention that she changed her temperament. Even now, you would not be able to accept the marriage of the Shen family." Chapter 791. Fu Xiui smiled. Even though I cannot take it, no one in Mingqi can take it. Other than the crown prince, anyone else who is tied to the Shen family would arouse imperial father's suspicion. Originally the crown prince's victory was in the bag, but one did not think that there would be an accident midway. Most likely the heavens are on our side. He did not have the slightest regret and said, those powerful officials in Mingqi would not marry into the Shen family. Even though the Shen family has a big business, Shen Miao may not be able to marry well. Consort Dong Shu sighed, correct? Finishing, she thought of something. But this time the crown prince stumbled miserably. Huangfu Hao's matter would definitely not be easy. Do you think that this was done by the Prince Zhou and Prince Jing brothers or Prince Li? Fu Xiui did not form cliques because he did not trust his own brothers and had always been one to rise. Originally Prince Zhou's faction and Prince Li's faction fought fiercely, and now Emperor Wenhui had the intention to support the crown prince and even had the intention to let the crown prince marry into the Shen family. Thus Prince Zhou and Prince Li could not help but be anxious. Who knew that the crown prince would suddenly appear halfway? The crown prince had become their enemy, and naturally they would spare no effort to get rid of him. This time the crown prince killing Huangfu Hao, anyone with discerning eyes could see that there was something fishy about it. There was an 8 or 9 out of 10 chance that the crown prince was schemed by others. Thinking about it, it was Prince Zhou and Prince Li who had the highest possibility. However, this kind of brazen scheming didn't seem to be the style of these two people. Fu Xiui shook his head. It might not be done by the both of them. When Consort Dong Shu heard it, she was surprised and asked, if it is not them, then could it be other people? Fu Xiuyi's and Shen Miao's faces appeared in his mind. There must be some unspeakable relationship between Prince Rui and Shen Miao. Even though it was not clear what was the reason for maintaining this relationship, but as long as it was related to Shen Miao, there would be an expert giving pointers behind the scenes. All sorts of signs indicated that that person was without a doubt Prince Rui. Previously Emperor Wenhui let the Empress sound out the Shen family and spread rumors that Shen Miao was going to marry into the residence of the crown prince. Not long after Prince Rui said those specious words to Emperor Wenhui dispelled the idea of Shen Miao immediately marrying. It was obvious that this incense party was set up to target Shen Miao. Until now, Huangfu Hao and the crown prince were both injured, but Shen Miao was safe and sound. It was said that Shen Miao was also going to Yifeng Pavilion that day, but on the way there, she bumped into an old woman and was delayed. How could it be so coincidental? Could it be that this time it was also Prince Rui who was manipulating everything from behind? If it was done by Prince Rui, he was obviously in Mingqi but dared to act so brazenly and even schemed against the crown princes of two countries. This Prince Rui really made one feel somewhat terrified. Seeing Fu Xiui lost in thought, Consort Dong Shu asked him, what is it? Fu Xiui recovered his senses and said, nothing. Suddenly he stood up and looked at Consort Dong Shu. This son suddenly remembered that there are still some matters and will not chat with Consort Mother. Business is more important. Consort Dong Shu said, you go first. At the other end, thank the heavens and earth, Ji Yushu and Gao Yang were finally released from the tower prison. These days, both of them had been watching over the prisoners in the tower prison and had seen all kinds of methods. Gao Yang was still alright, but Ji Yushu was a delicate person and had lost a lot of weight. Not because of anything else, he was nauseous every day and could not eat, so it would be strange if he did not lose weight. With great difficulty being released, both of them held hands and looked at each other with tears in their eyes and were speechless. After a long while, Ji Yushu said, I need to return to Fengxian pawn shop to take a bath and change my clothes. I will bid farewell here. Finishing, he slipped away. Gao Yang sighed and looked at his dusty appearance, and his heart felt powerless. Xie Jingxing was actually so ruthless. It was just a little bit of negligence and he actually sent them to the tower prison. Tower prison. That was a place that even Tai could not withstand the first time he went in. Chapter 792. Not to mention that he and Ji Yushu were pampered people. Ji Yushu returned to the Fengxian pawn shop and first let Hong Luan prepare the bath water for him. After taking a beautiful bath and eating some snacks, he then returned to the study. Upon entering, he was almost suffocated by the dust inside. Ji Yushu's study did not allow servants to enter as there were many secrets. Thus these days no one came in to clean. Ji Yushu originally wanted to let Hong Luan tidy up for him, but after thinking about it, he gave up. He appointed himself to pick up the broom and started sweeping. It was not easy to barely look through it before Ji Yushu sat down in front of the desk and saw that there was a thick stack of letters on the desk before he started to read. When he flipped to the last letter, Ji Yushu was already somewhat drowsy, but as he read and read, his pajamas were swept clean and his expression gradually became serious. Pei Lang was actually locked up by Fu Xiaoyi? Pei Lang's identity was exposed? Heavens! Such a big thing had happened. Did anyone know? Did anyone rescue him? There should be no one. Observing Pei Lang was Ji Yushu's own private action, and at the end he was just curious why Shen Miao wanted Pei Lang to be a spy by Fu Xiaoyi's side. Even if Pei Lang had some talent, but the matter of being a spy required great loyalty. Fu Xiaoyi was so good at controlling, so was Shen Miao not worried that Pei Lang would be instigated to defect? More importantly, Shen Miao's relationship with Pei Lang was only mediocre, so why would she dare to make such a decision? But one did not think that this spur-of-the-moment action would be effective at this time. Ji Yushu turned his head and was about to leave to show the letter to Xie Jingxing. Just as he stood up, he stopped again. "Will third older brother lock me up again?" Ji Yushu muttered. The reason why Xie Jingxing locked Ji Yushu and Gao Yang up was because that day when the Empress summoned Shen Miao into the palace to probe Shen Miao's marriage to the crown prince. This matter was ignored by both of them and was not reported to Xie Jingxing. So Xie Jingxing directly threw both of them into the tower prison. Third older brother values Shen Young Lady very much, and this Pei Lang seems to be interested in Shen Young Lady, and even said that he wanted to marry Shen Young Lady. So Pei Lang is third older brother's love rival. Since he is a rival, would one be beaten by third older brother if one were to tell third older brother now? Third brother definitely doesn't want to save him. Pei Lang muttered to himself, just like how I didn't like how Miss Peony always smiled at the Prime Minister's son. When the Prime Minister's son fell off his horse, I was very happy for him. Ji Yushu judged others by himself and came to a conclusion. It is better not to tell third older brother about this matter. Since there is no new news, he should not be dead yet. Let him stay for a few more days. Ji Yushu thought that he had done very well, but did not know what kind of changes his actions would cause in the future. Shan Xiu and Luo Ling were the commanders of the garrison in the Ministry of War, and these days they were very busy. Huang Fuhao was dead and there were a lot of problems left behind. As for the guards of the residence of the Prince of Qin, if they were to be killed, it would cause the dissatisfaction of the Qin country's emperor. If they were not killed, they would want to seek an explanation for Huang Fuhao and spread rumors that the crown prince was the murderer among the commoners, causing the Ding capital to be busy these few days. Since he couldn't kill him, he could only put him under house arrest. But the crown prince's guards were personally selected by the Qin country's emperor to protect Huang Fuhao, so how would their abilities be ordinary? Today they would guard the residence of the Prince of Qin, and tomorrow, he would think of a way to escape. In order to avoid chaos, the number of the garrison was doubled and they patrolled around the Ding capital, fearing that the Qin guards would harm the innocent commoners in order to vent their anger. As a matter of fact, when today's matters were completed, it was already close to evening. Shen Xiu and Luo Ling walked side by side on the streets. Originally it was nearing the end of the year and the streets of the Ding capital were the most lively, but because of Huang Fuhao's matter, the commoners were instructed by the garrison to close their doors early and return home. But before night fell, there were already very few people on the streets. Chapter 793. Shen Qiu sighed. If the Ministry of Justice do not come up with a solution, the city guards would not be able to hold on. When the crown prince was locked up in prison, on one side the Qin emperor was aggressive and wanted an explanation, and on the other side Emperor Wen Hui was reluctant to part with his only eldest son, but it was the commoners that suffered. This year is not peaceful. Luo Ling shook his head. No matter what the result is, one fear that there will be chaos in the Ding capital. Both of them looked at each other and saw the worry in each other's eyes. Shen Qiu said, "Do not mention about this. Yesterday I heard from mother that younger sister's marriage needs to be reconsidered. Even though there is no need to worry about the crown prince's side for the time being. But the more chaotic the situation is, the more people would want to use the Shen family as a raft. Younger sister's identity is special and would inevitably attract covetous eyes. If one does not settle the marriage early, it would not be good in the future. When Luoling heard it, he was surprised for a moment. Before he could speak, he heard Shen Qiu saying, "Younger Biao brother, what do you think?" "Me?" Luoling's face turned slightly red. "Does not older Biao brother already know of my thoughts?" Shen Qiu made a high sound and put one hand on Luoling's shoulder. "You are at least a martial artist and grew up with Jiu in the army. How can one speak of such things like those pedantic literati?" He said, "I see that you are good at everything except that your face is thin. You do not go and tell younger sister about this kind of matter. Could it be that you want younger sister to take the initiative to look for you?" Luoling smiled somewhat awkwardly. Shen Qiu patiently enticed. "My younger sister's temperament looks gentle on the surface, but in her bones she is the most arrogant and stubborn. If you are thinking that younger sister will take the initiative to look for you, one fear that there is no need to think about it. As a man, if one likes, then one likes and directly go. Even though you cannot beat me." Shen Qiu looked at Luoling with some pickiness, "But the current situation is different and you are barely qualified. If you are to be my brother-in-law, I will also accept it." Shen Qiu said it heroically, but Luoling was even more embarrassed. He said, "This also requires younger Biao sister's agreement. If you do not say it, how would younger sister know your thoughts?" Shen Qiu glared at him. "Let's not talk about anything else. First of all, you have to find an opportunity to explain to your younger sister what you think." "Biao younger brother, I will tell you the truth. Su Mingfeng was sick in the past and I do not like him. Feng Zixian tsk. Last time their Feng family almost caused younger sister to lose her life. At the end of the day, you're not bad. Many thanks to Biao older brother." Luoling smiled. "If there is a chance, I will definitely." Shen Qiu still wanted to say something but saw a horse suddenly galloping over from the other end of the street. That horse's fur was smooth and even in the dusky evening, it was still eye-catching. It had always been heroes who loved good horses, so Shen Qiu and Luoling could not help but be attracted by that horse. The person on the horse was also valiant, and from afar, one could tell that he was graceful and out of this world. When that person neared Shen Qiu, he suddenly stopped the horse and the front hooves of the horse were raised up, but the person on top was extremely stable. It was obvious that his horsemanship was outstanding and extremely beautiful. Shen Qiu couldn't help but shout, "Good." The horse rider said, "Young General Shen." Shen Qiu was surprised for a moment. One saw that there was a person sitting on top of the horse. The luxurious purple gold robe was even more vibrant under the lantern light. His figure was tall and straight, and there was a silver mask on his face that revealed a good contour. His chin was smooth and his thin lips were slightly raised. A pair of eyes that looked down from top to bottom was somewhat amorous. "Your Highness Prince Rui." Shen Qiu and Luoling quickly bowed to this person. They had seen Prince Rui in the tributes of the court and knew that this was Prince Rui without a doubt. Moreover, this kind of lazy and unrestrained temperament, only Prince Rui was unique. Prince Rui said, "No need to be polite. Just thought that this prince had seen wrongly and did not think that it was really young General Shen, so stopped to greet." He only spoke to Shen Qiu and did not look at Luoling. Shen Qiu was somewhat overwhelmed with favor. This Prince Rui usually did not put Emperor Wen Hui in his eyes, but he actually took the initiative to greet him. Moreover, he spoke in such a polite manner that Shen Qiu was secretly vigilant if the other party had any tricks up their sleeves, but at the same time he had a complacent feeling. Could it be that his reputation as a young general was broadcasted, that even the great Liang's Prince Rui was chasing after him? But one did not see Luoling's suddenly pale face. At Prince Rui's waist, there was a safety pendant that looked inexplicably familiar. Chapter 794. The markings on the pendant were very special, and one could recognize it at a glance. Luoling's expression was very ugly as he asked, "Dare to ask your Highness Prince Rui, where did the pendant on your waist come from?" Shen Qiu looked at Luoling with some surprise. Luoling was a person who had a sense of propriety and was usually very calm outside, but to ask Prince Rui so rashly, it was somewhat abrupt. For Prince Rui to greet you, it meant that Prince Rui was in a good mood and it was your honor. If you take the initiative to greet Prince Rui, it would depend on whether the other party was willing to pay attention to you or not. One did not think that Prince Rui would give face today. He removed the safety pendant from his waist and played with it before smiling lazily. This? A girl gave it to me. Shunxiu. Prince Rui had spoken too much today. Why did these romantic affairs have to be brought up in front of two people they had never met before? Shunxiu was very embarrassed. There were some things that the more one knew, the earlier one would die. He did not have any interest in Prince Rui's private matters, so why did Luo Ling ask about such trivial matters? Luo Ling's face became paler and paler as he stared uncontrollably at the pendant of fortune in Prince Rui's hands. But Prince Rui only glanced at him and casually hung the safety pendant on his waist. He said to Shunxiu, "This prince still have matters and will not speak much with General Shen. If General Shen is free in the future, one can come over to Prince Rui's residence for a visit." He said with a smile that was not a smile, "This prince would like to exchange pointers with General Shen." Finished speaking, he pulled on the reins and the horse galloped away, leaving Shunxiu and his companion standing dumbfounded on the spot. Shunxiu muttered, "Could it be that this Prince Rui wants to rope me in? Everything was fine, so why would Prince Rui let him go to the residence of Prince Rui?" Shunxiu dared to say that Prince Rui did not say this to the princes of Mingqi. Even though his martial arts was indeed outstanding and Prince Rui might have taken a liking to his martial arts at first glance, Shunxiu was feeling pleased with himself when he suddenly saw Luo Ling's abnormal expression. Finding it a little weird, he asked, "Cousin, what's wrong? Not feeling well? Why do you look so pale?" Luo Ling recovered to his senses and forced a smile. "Nothing much. Let's go back." "All right." Shunxiu looked again at the end of the street where Prince Rui disappeared and said, "It seems that Prince Rui is quite fond of that young lady, to actually hang the love token on his waist. One do not know which young lady had such an honor. One feared that she would laugh even in her dreams." Shunxiu's heart was carefree, but he did not discover that on the way back, Luo Ling's steps were staggering. It was as if he had suffered a heavy blow. Sure enough, as everyone expected, Huang Fuhao's assassination in Mingqi had implicated many troubles. Although the people on the Crown Prince's side had been seeking justice for the Crown Prince, the Ministry of Justice had not taken any action. It was as if they wanted to lock the Crown Prince up forever. Emperor Wen Hui's action also made the courtiers to have a new look at him. Once the Crown Prince was imprisoned, some people saw that the situation was not right and turned around to join other princes. The structure of the imperial court changed once again. This is a story for another time, so let's not talk about it. The wind was cold at night, so Luo Tan and Luo Shuiyan went out to buy clothes for the new year. Luo Shuiyan said that both of them were big young ladies and a few more sets of clothes had to be made, so they almost shopped all over the Ding capital. When they returned to the residence, even though Shen Miao was tired from carrying it, she also felt a little tired. Jingzhe and Guyu went to prepare the water, and when Shen Miao came out from her bath, she saw that there was one more person in the room. When Xie Jingxing turned back, he saw Shen Miao wearing a middle garment and one hand holding a handkerchief to twist her wet hair. The current young female was different from 2 years ago. Even though her stature was still petite, she was like a budding flower, green and fragrant. The middle garment was slightly wet, and it seemed that one could see the slim figure through the outside. Under the flickering light, her red lips and white teeth could be seen, and her eyes seemed to be covered with a layer of mist. Her hair was black and wet and stuck to her cheeks. The lower it was, the more one could see the faintly discernible whiteness. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.